This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, episode 262, our 5-year anniversary. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We're bringing you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, you can visit my highly acclaimed website, another new article on dudeinit.com. If you're a MIDI user, you can learn how to use a MIDI controller with 2 different programs at once using software that hasn't been updated since the early 2000s. Very exciting. And joining me, as he has done for the last 5 whole freaking years, Brian with, well, I don't even know what letter to use in the years, Aldrich. Hello, Brian.
Yes.
How are you doing?
It is amazing we have made it this far.
It is. I like your cake.
And survived 5 years. Thank you very much. I'll eat it too. So if you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, or you can check out my blog, biteoftech.com. Make sure that's with an I. Also, if you go to our website, you'll now see 262 as of by the time this hits the YouTube and everything, 262 episodes worth of show notes. So you can go check those out. So anything we talk about today during the show, you're more than welcome to jump on there and follow along. Also, we have on there the Discord on the right-hand side. So maybe you want to join us for Game of the Week. Perhaps you want to give some suggestions for news. You can do that in the Discord server. And that's a free app. There's a desktop app. There's a mobile app, really easy to use, and a web-based app. You can even just use your web browser. The Steam group will give you notifications of when the live show is about to start. So if you click that, join that group right before the show, 10-15 minutes before we go live, or 5 minutes even, it'll pop up, tell you that we're going. So you can jump into the channel and join us, participate in the giveaways. You can kind of chatter while we're doing the show. It's a lot of fun. If you want to come check us live and see the video versions, we have our Twitch, our YouTube, and our Mixer on there. If you want to find whatever audio-only platform after the fact, we've got all those on the lower right-hand side. You can check those out. If you want to support us financially, we have amazon.infectionpodcast.com. We have humble.infectionpodcast.com. And, of course, a lot of people, they give us their Twitch Prime subs throughout the week, and that's very helpful and adds up over the year. So, very nice.
Do you like my new tab
Yes.
thing here? The
Yes,
Bing puts random images on my new tab.
You love squirrels.
You know,
That's okay.
today is Squirrel Day, according to Bing. It is observing.
Well, there you go.
A squirrely day. Wow,
Nice.
It's fitting for
Perfect timing.
fitting for our 5-year anniversary that it is Squirrel Day, whatever the hell that means. Now, Brian, we've got a lot of news this evening, and obviously it's important to kind of reflect on the past 5 years. I think it was best summed up, and I'm going to play just a couple minutes of our first show here in a minute. But I posted, because actually yesterday was our 5-year anniversary. It was the 20th of January 2015 when we started this program. And I think Falcon summed it up perfectly. Our friend Falcon, who's been with us as long as I can remember. I don't remember a time where he wasn't an active member of our community. And he said, as bad as H1Z1 was in retrospect, we had a lot of fun, and it was mostly what sparked up this community. For that, I'm thankful. And that kind of hit the nail on the head for me. I think that's a very accurate description. We've played great games. We've played awful games. We've had great people in our community.
We've played the best of games and the worst of games.
And the worst games. And frankly, we've had good people in our community. We've had bad, toxic people in our community and throughout the last 5 years. But we've got a core group of people that have been with us since what it feels like is the beginning of time. I think I was in high school.
I'm pretty sure you were.
So, I'm wearing the shirt, wearing my H1Z1 podcast shirt tonight. I didn't even know if I had brought it to North Carolina with me. And I was like, it was the last, my shirts are rolled in my drawer. And it was like the one that was so packed at the bottom. I was like, oh, there it is. Just all the way down there at the bottom. So Brian, without further ado, what I'm going to try to do is play just a couple minutes of our first show. Maybe we'll give a little retrospective as we do that. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is episode 1. You're ready for flashback.
262 weeks ago.
262 weeks ago. Hurricanes, everything else in between. Episode 1 of Infection Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Infection, the H1Z1 podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on H1Z1. We bring you the latest news, changelogs, developments, strategies, speculations, and much more each and every week. Right here on Infection, infectionpodcast.com. My name is Nick Craig. At Gamecast Live is my Twitter. And that's not my Twitter anymore. This is Infection. But I'm not alone. And I won't be alone. Joining me every week, Brian Aldridge.
Woo! I'm doing wonderful. Yeah. If you want to find me, go ahead and go to
Brian. You look like
Twitter,
a baby.
Boise Computer.
I know. What happened?
Google Plus, of course.
You got old, man.
Just search for Google.
I had all my hair.
/plus
fair skinned.
They have
and
nice,
then,
it's a bad camera.
Not
fair
Google Plus page.
Yeah, and if you're on our website,
the camp was because the room's so dark, and then
hosts
I didn't fix my lighting by all
of our social links. Brian's got his LinkedIn on there. You know, he's really going all
I did
out.
Fix my lighting over time.
Over there with the social media stuff. So you can get all of that there. But this is Infection. I want to thank everybody for joining us live in the Twitch chat room. We do the show live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
I would like to thank our audience that has put up with 262 weeks of that.
I'm going to stop that right there.
Yes.
We originally started Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. We have never, outside of holidays and like one-offs, we have never not been Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that for that. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying, we're kind of a big deal. Eastern Standard Time, if you're listening to the audio version of this, after the fact, you can check it out Tuesdays or on our YouTube channel. So this is Infection, and without further ado, Brian, I think, let's initial reactions of the game. We'll get into the changelog
I
can only imagine what initial reactions. What are you thinking of H1Z1
Positive
so
things,
far?
I'm sure.
All right, so start day one. I mean, I message you and I pretty much say, hey, have you gotten the game? I saw that it looked like you purchased it on Steam. And so I messaged you asking, well, should I get this? And I just said, all right, I'll buy this game. And of course the servers are down. Just we're not getting on, and I spend I think it was till 4:30 a.m. trying to get on the servers that first day. And so I was thinking, man, I was having that buyer's regret. Oh man, the fact that you can't.
How much was it? $20
for the first?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it was like $20. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 8 hours, I think.
Yeah.
It was not good, but I've been really happy with. After that first day,
really,
they started putting out some patches for those major bugs, and come today, I mean, it's very playable. So I'm really happy that
it never changed.
A couple days,
it never changed
awesome
from that point, but at that point in time, it was playable.
In comparison to not being able to play at all, it was very playable.
Thursday?
I was able to log in, so that made it playable.
I think it was Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern.
Yes.
So the game has been already less than a week, and like you said, I'm very happy with it. Within
so you're Nick.
That's a deep fake.
I mean, everybody compares this to DayZ, and they're like, oh, it's
the DayZ X.
Right
you
now,
bought it 2 weeks
the original
ago.
DayZ, I think it's very close, depending on what mods and everything are on the server.
See, mods. I was talking not the new DayZ.
All right.
Original DayZ. But I think if you look at,
I said original.
You played the new DayZ. I mean, how long that's been in a year development at least?
Yeah. Damn. Almost that.
Is it at the level that this is now with H1Z1?
I believe on the standalone, I still don't think there's vehicles on the DayZ standalone, which is something
5 years later, you could say this exact same quote.
The cars work, but they're not worth the damn.
Incorporated
from day one. Yeah. So there's that. The weapons are kind of far and few in between on H1Z1. They seem to be a little more plentiful in DayZ, but some of those loot things which were addressed in the patch that came out today, hopefully we'll fix that and make this, pretty close to almost a complete playable. It's pretty playable now, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into some of the change logs, but I think them fixing the loot because it
what was
seems
the loot
like
issue?
You'd almost have to see
remember?
something.
Okay, I don't think it was
you're gonna
on
explain
top
it.
of a desk.
Hold on.
Okay,
it didn't seem like, and I think that was addressed in this patch, but it seemed like things had to be sitting on top of something for them to spawn.
Oh god.
And I think that's why we had such a hard time just going through buildings. You feel like you're opening up drawers and not finding anything.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
It seems like there was a reason.
So then what? Wait, there was no loot in any of the containers?
Okay, so the problem is nothing in an openable container would work. So everything, the only loot that existed in the whole map, and this, or I said it's very playable right now, were things that happened to spawn, like when they put a gun on a bed, or if it spawned laying out in the world. So every single container you'd loot, every drawer you'd open, cabinet, everything, nothing had loot. So that was the experience 5 years ago. And if you think about it, did the game really get that much better?
Yes, it did. Come on.
That episode.
You want to listen to all hour and 9 minutes of this and think about how much
No,
better it was?
I do not.
We are not going to. We're going to put a pin in that for right now. We'll come back to that maybe towards the middle part of the show, play a couple more minutes of it.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight and all of the folks that have come and gone over the past 5 years. Thank you. We appreciate it. It means a lot to us.
Yes.
And I'm very, very happy with our the state of our community and all the people that are hanging out in there. So cheers to everybody. Thank you. We appreciate it. Brian.
Yes.
I have been saying on this program, there was a lot of if I had a little more motivation, which is something I struggle with, I would have pulled a bunch of clips of recent programs of ours because we talked about a lot of things. I'm not saying that, I got to take this date off. Today is not the 20th of 2015. What I need to say, Brian, to you and to the fans of the show, we are right about a lot of things. I have been saying since I was very hungover in Seattle in September of last year that Cyberpunk 2077 was going to be a huge letdown. And I don't know that it's going to be a huge letdown, but coming out this week was an article on Forbes that they are delaying.
I mean, you have bet on it. It is in the book.
Wait, really? I don't remember this bet.
Well, you put 8/27 of 19. You said Cyberpunk will be overhyped and will fall short of expectations.
Well, so if it even comes out.
Yeah, well, something will come out.
So they have pushed back the April 10th release date to September 17th.
Yeah.
So you're talking about early spring or maybe middle spring to late summer for this game.
Well, and that's personally, I'm fine with that because there's so many games coming out.
Yeah.
That Cyberpunk is going to be a huge game. Early in the year, we're supposed to be having the new Last of Us come out.
Okay.
Right? In a couple months here, if I remember correctly, I better look it up. But The Last of Us 2 should be coming out pretty soon. And so that will take, a month or two for me to really play through. I would think I'm not going to sit down and play that through in a week. And I think that there's a couple of games that were big games that were supposed to come out about the same time. So I don't mind if they spread them out a little bit, especially with this one. It's supposed to be a huge open world game with tons of content. It's not a set storyline that takes you through. I'd rather have it day one work well, and rather than them saying, we're going to fix this after 6 months worth of patches, because this is a story game. It's a single player game. It's not multiplayer. I'm not going to play through it 3 times. So if I play through it in the first month and then you say, okay, well, 6 months in, we patched all these problems, then that doesn't do me any good because I'm not playing through it again a second time probably.
So Head Neophyte and kind of agrees with you and says delays are fine if the end product is good. Yeah, I don't have an issue with delays. I take a little bit of joy in the fact that this game got delayed. Because
I know, you're just like, it's closer to my prediction.
Well, it's not even closer to the prediction. I think it was pretty clear to at least everybody we were in Seattle with at PAX West that when they showed, first of all, they bailed on PAX West, in which they were supposed to do developer Q&A and show what they called an extensive gameplay video. And they released the most hodgepodge bullshit 3 or 4 minute video with the most scripted cutscenes and almost nothing new. And at that point, September of last year, I think it was very clear this is where the game was going. And have you heard a word since then?
Not really. I mean, I haven't seen, the one thing I want to see is an extended gameplay.
That's what we were supposed to see in September.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to see. That would really show the flaws, because usually it's happened before. What was the game where we saw extended gameplay and we're like, oh, this is not at
Yeah,
all what they
IGN
expected?
had it. I don't remember, but IGN had the exclusive. It was like 55 minutes or something. I don't remember what
There
it
was
was,
something
though.
we watched, and we were like, and everybody was so hyped up on that game, and then we watched a little bit of it, and we're like, this is not what people are expecting. And then it ended up being a huge letdown. I wish I remember what exactly that game was, but I do remember there was one just like that. And I think you could really tell if they would, show us something that kind of demonstrates how big the world is. Show us something that really demonstrates what the quests are like. What are the choices that you make? Because everything we've seen so far seems very scripted. They're not really letting you see the choices, right? You're not seeing a thing pop up that says, here's one of my three. I don't remember that happening in those. It just seemed like it was more of a scripted set of things that you were doing. So we'll see. I mean, this is a game that I really enjoyed. We did a D&D session on it, right? It wouldn't be a D&D, but equivalent tabletop session with it, and that was a lot of fun. So the lore behind this whole world, the cyberpunk world, is really fun, and I think that a lot of cool things could spawn from this as well, not just this game itself, if it really catches on. But I think it'll be interesting to see if they fumble this. They've released some pretty big titles before. I think they have the ability to put out a really good title.
And I think it's safe to say everybody wants them to put out a good title.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't as a video gamer, unless you have some weird vendetta against them. But I need to be convinced. To say that my level of skepticism before wasn't already extremely high, it was ratcheted up to a whole nother level when this came out I think this came out yesterday. Yeah, I think it did come out yesterday. So it's a series of events, Brian, that have got me nervous. It's not just the fact that they've delayed it. It's that we saw that gameplay trailer that was not gameplay at all. It was scripted cutscenes. Then there was a non-existent developer Q&A that they canceled 6 or 7 days before it was supposed to happen. It was close enough where they had already spent the money to be there. And then thirdly, now we've got a 5-month delay, which is a significant delay. You're muted. I don't hear you.
All right. You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Perfect.
We good? Okay, cool. Sorry. So the one thing that I want to say is I would hope that they would really, if anything, maybe they realize, because look at Witcher. We talked about Witcher and how like the marketing, I mean, they have a television show with that. I'm hoping that they're putting in the extra time to where, because they realize that this world could have so much spawn from it. There could be, I mean, you could do television, movies off of this world that haven't really been done yet. I mean, there are movies like them. If you look at, there's shows that are done in this kind of cyberpunkish future, but nothing has really been done off of the cyberpunk brand other than tabletop stuff. So, and kind of what, maybe one video game thing. I don't remember what kind of video games they may have done.
Let me tell you my hesitation. I have a feeling that this 5-month delay is not to build in extra story and extra lore. I have a feeling this 5-month pushback is to get the bare minimum out the door. September wasn't all that long ago. You're talking October, November, December, January, February. 5 months ago. It's not like it was a year ago. And we saw nothing. So I have a feeling this extra you're talking about 10 months from then to full game release. This is what I fear, is that unlike Red Dead Redemption 2, because it's important to remember that Red Dead Redemption 2 did either a 6 or 8 month delay. Rockstar did a significant delay with Red Dead Redemption 2. And it was a similar time frame. It was like 2 to 3 months prior to launch. But when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, it was solid. It was finished. It was gold. My concern here, Brian, and this is just my speculation, because I don't know why. Maybe I do have a personal vendetta against them. I don't know. I just have a strong fear that September 17th, when this game comes out, it's going to be in an early access sort of form. And that, to me, is the unacceptable part. Now, that hasn't happened yet. I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's my fear. Not that it's not going to come out in September, is that after a huge 5-month delay, it is still going to be an unfinished product. That scares the daylight out of me. That's my concern.
Let's look at some things that have happened in the past with similar games. And what I mean by similar, having a game set in a city that has a lot of activity going on is very difficult. I don't remember if we had looked before at Watch Dogs and a comparison of the preview scene, the one that they showed at one of the conventions, versus what actually happened when it was released, and the amount that they cut back and took out just because of all of the processing power and optimization that has to happen for a normal computer, an average gaming computer, to be able to run that. For me, I would rather have them take all this time doing optimization and really working it out to where they're going to provide me with the world that they promised. Because if you look at that Watch Dogs world that they promised, there was huge differences between the end result and that. It didn't feel anything like what they had promised. And so I don't know exactly. There's an article, of course, you have various gaming websites that have to give their input on this, and game industry, their Twitter, they say Cyberpunk, they've been, CD Projekt has revealed that their development staff have been doing crunch, to be able to release this game. And that was a big thing that we saw with Red Dead, and them really hammering on the company saying, oh, you're making your team crunch. And they're saying, yeah, we're doing that, but look at all these other big studios are doing it as well. Amazon Studio, all these other big ones that have big titles, that are putting out big titles like we are, they're crunching as well. It's just part of how the industry works.
Yeah, but and the thing that's and I know I'm beating the horse, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my show. Every other industry does this too. Brian, you now work in software, and I guarantee you, now you're relatively new to that field, but I guarantee you within the next couple of years, you will have to crunch for a project. That crunch may mean that we are unable to do a show at a set time. That means you may not be able to go out on a date. That might mean you might not be able to do something on a weekend. I guarantee you, I've already been there, and you will be there too, because that's what the real world is like when you have a job that has deadlines. So stop bitching about it, or go find another goddamn job. I don't understand this crunch. Like, I'm supposed to have some sympathy for some freaking video game developers. I've never been in a situation, or I don't know of a situation in which people don't have to crunch towards deadlines in any job. Go get a job stocking shelves. There's no crunch there.
They do say they're trying to limit the crunch. But this seems to be, I did see someone who, if you follow the Twitter feed down, says, I'd rather wait for this game to be released in 2022 than have a single employee of CD Projekt have to work overtime. I'm like, what kind of an idiot are you?
You know, it'd be great if, Brian, your internet goes out, right? Let's say you call your provider and they say, oh, we could send somebody out there, but Bill has already worked his 40 hours this week. So he'll be out Monday morning to take a look at your internet. It's Friday afternoon at 4:00. We wouldn't want to crunch him. I wonder what the reaction what people's reaction would be if that was the case. Because if it was a service that they needed, like internet, all hell would break loose. And of course, there's their typical, go communism and socialism, capitalism destroys everything kind of BS that they're using on Twitter.
That was the first post on Twitter. Oh, capitalism at work.
On a platform that was only developed because of capitalism, Twitter. So, we don't do politics on this show, but I think it is a little, and this is not political, it's a little ridiculous to be in an industry like gaming, like software development, like any industry that has hard deadlines, and be dumbfounded by the fact that you have to work a couple of extra hours a week. Okay, I don't believe every single person's doing it. I think that's a lie.
I think it's probably project leads and
as it should be
certain people. Now, one thing I do want to mention though, generally when you're working for a company like this that has these types of crunches, you have a higher rate of pay.
Absolutely.
That's well, I one thing I will say, the company that I work for now, we don't have crunches, but you know what? They pay us very well, but they said if you went and worked at a place that had crazy crunch times, they'd probably pay you more. But you know what? You'd have crazy crunch times. you'd have all this. I work at a place that's a little more lax, that doesn't require any overtime, doesn't require any of this. But
Doesn't
you know,
right
it takes a
now.
lot of.
But you could.
No, it doesn't ever. No, it doesn't ever.
It
But
doesn't
mine doesn't. Mine doesn't.
in its
But,
current.
but
Okay, but hold on. Let's say half of the developers.
As our company does not require any overtime and does not do any of that.
If half of the developers that work for your company quit, I'm sure they would. That would have to change.
Well, they would just. I guess you. Well, we'd have to drop clients.
Everything is situational. That's the point.
I'm just saying,
Everything
but
is
there's a lot of planning goes into ours to make sure that doesn't happen, and we don't have deadlines the same way that this gaming industries have deadlines, and they're trying to squeeze more and more in. With certain types of products, you have a list of here's what I'm going to be making, and then you put an estimate on what that is. With a game, it's different. In a game, you're trying to put in every little thing you can squeeze in before that deadline. Like you want every little feature, and you're putting in dream, like, oh, I'd love it if it has this, you know, but if it doesn't, then you drop that from the list of features, right? You don't include that in. And so this is an industry where there are crunches, there are deadlines, but you know what? They tend to get bonuses. They tend to get higher pay. They get months of, after the game is released, they'll probably get a couple months of being off. You know, I mean, it's just, it's different. And so these people that are making comments from outside the industry that are saying, oh, well, this is so unfair that they're making, this is how the industry works. You know what? And they tailor it for that. They tailor it so that when the release is done, you go on a vacation. You know, it's crunch now, vacation later. Other than, unlike of industry where, all right, you made this deadline, you know what, Monday you start another thing. This is not how it always works in the game industry. So
I just, and maybe this is because I'm a heartless bastard, but I don't have sympathy for people having to do their jobs. I mean, am I wrong to say that? I mean, I don't.
Everyone who works there knows what they're getting into.
That's what I'm saying. You know what the video game industry is. I don't have any sympathy for you going and getting a job and then complaining when you have to work overtime. Like
I don't really hear employees. I don't really hear
any other industry
crying about this. It's people commenters on Twitch or in Twitter that are making these comments. Like I don't see any other industry in the industry.
You know, so for example, we've had a couple of hurricanes down here, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
You think those? You know what I've never heard? The Duke Energy line workers who are working 120 hours a week after a hurricane to restore power, bitching and complaining about it. That's your job.
That's part of how that industry works.
You work as a power utility man or woman in southeastern North Carolina that is sticking 150 miles out into the Atlantic Ocean. That is part of the gig that you possibly sign up for. You know where else you don't hear that, Brian? Snowplow drivers in the Northeast or in the Midwest. Yeah. Oh, I have to work a bunch of extra hours because we got 9 feet of snow. That's your job. If you don't like it, find somewhere else to work. But stop complaining. I can't deal with people complaining about their jobs. If they said, hey, I'm supposed to work 60 hours a week, but they're shutting off the electricity halfway through the day, that's a whole nother story. That's not what's going on. You're just being told that, and we don't even know if they're being required to work or if they're being asked to work, because those are two totally different things.
Because the whole thing with Red Dead was that they actually weren't required to. It was people by their own choice because you know what, they're artists, they're perfectionists. They wanted their game to be the best thing that was released up to that time, right? And then so they put in all the extra hours
and money. Brian, don't forget the money.
Yeah, I mean they get paid overtime as well.
If you could be told you could make time and a half working a couple of extra hours a week, and you're somebody trying to pay off debt, or I mean, if you're anybody, why would you not?
Yeah,
I mean,
and that is the difference. I mean, this is the industry. There's I should ask. There's a person who's been in the industry a long time that I know.
I would be
Worked
very
for
interested.
major studio, working on the original Call of Duty, all that. He'd be an interesting person to sit down and talk to. He's a really nice guy, but to get a true person in the industry and their take on all of this, because I think all these comments that we hear and we see are from people who have no clue. It's like it'd be like someone who's works at, is in the city from New York City coming and making a comment about farm workers, someone who owns a farm in Idaho. And they say, oh, it's unfair that you have to do. You know what? They wake up really early and do certain things because that's what you do in that industry. They do a lot of crunch at certain times of year because that's what you do in that industry. But you know what? There's a lot of times that they don't have that crunch. Well, the same thing with this game development. There are times when there's a lot of crunch. But you know what? There's a lot of times when there's not a lot of crunch. And it's just part of the industry.
Get over it.
I saw people pushing for unions. They're like, oh, all the employees need to make a union.
Yeah, that's worked
and all
out well
this.
for all the gaming blogs recently. Yeah, that's worked out real well. As they change their icon pictures, that's the extent of their protesting.
Yeah. So it's silly. But hey, personally, I hope Cyberpunk comes out to be something amazing.
Yes, me too.
I think just like the Witcher series that has a lot of really good backstory. The Cyberpunk world. It's all. I think that hopefully that whole thing with the Witcher opens up that world to, hey, we should start making Netflix series and movies and all this off of these video games, because it's much better than the way, like we'd spoken about last week. It's much better than the other way around. Like, you have something that already has a ton of story. You can just build on it and make a TV show. Quit trying to make games off of stupid TV shows and movies. Do it this way.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. They're usually bad. When you do it the other way around, they're usually bad. But
agreed.
The Witcher is doing very well because you know what? You don't have to try to. It's much easier to take that game and then just show it in the form of a film, and it's good. Like, I'm hoping that they're going to make these and make them big and realize we don't have to make all our money off this first game. Like, do what Star Wars did. Star Wars makes money all kinds of places, right? They don't say we have to make it just on the movie. They make it on merchandising and everything else. Cyberpunk, I think it's a big enough world. Get the game out, do it really well, and then you guys continue having money. You don't have to do a bunch of microtransactions and all this crap. Make a game that's good enough and has a good enough backstory and lore to where you're going to keep making money off of it. I think that could be kind of a new way that the industry grows. It grows and grows. So I think it would be cool.
Absolutely. So there's the news on Cyberpunk. 5-month delay. We will patiently wait hopefully some videos and some updates and some news from them in the coming months. So interesting stuff to hear from Cyberpunk. Now, I also mentioned, Brian, that I feel like I could have grabbed a couple of clips, because another thing that we talked about on this program, specifically you, has absolutely come true. And that is Daybreak Game Studios is restructuring into 3 independent studios. Unfortunately, I did not have enough time to go back, because this is literally what you said. Like 8-10 weeks ago, something like that. So they are splitting into 3 new companies. Rogue Planet Games, which will be responsible for PlanetSide 2 currently, and whatever other PlanetSides may happen. Dimensional Inc. Games and Dark Paw Games. They said the structuring will allow each studio to develop in its own identity, recruit new talent, and continue developing both current and existing games. A representative further explained that the studios have been given a greater autonomy under the new franchise business teams. The heads of these games have seen their roles expand to the studio head roles, and especially in the case of Austin, they are actively hiring additional staffers for their teams. They are now their own business units, whereas they were formerly one Daybreak Studios with offices in San Diego and Austin. So now I don't know if this is, because we've seen this before, right? H1Z1 split into 2 things, 2 allegedly separate development teams. They really weren't.
But that was still under the same company, though. And a lot of my whole view on this is that they're limiting risk to the other companies, because the problem is when, for instance, we saw with their most recent game that they've released. We had PlanetSide Arena that has done horribly well. I can't imagine that it made any money. It has to be in the red. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it couldn't be in the red. And that carries over to these other games. They have their games that have kind of kept money flowing in. EverQuest, it's not costing them a ton of money. They're making money off of that somehow still, right? Same thing with some of these other titles that they have. They are still with the whole DC universe and all this. They're still making money off of those. And when one studio does something that is financially very irresponsible, like I would say PlanetSide Arena was financially irresponsible. They did it. I don't know if you would have analyzed that early on, knowing all the facts, you probably would have said, hey, that's not a high probability that's going to make very much money.
Yeah.
There's too many things against it. When something like that happens, it before would have put all these other successful ventures at risk. Now, you can put successful in your own terms, but they are hiring people. They're making however much more money than they're costing to keep going, and the products are still there. I would view that as successful, right? And so that is my issue is here now when they separated them, you don't have to worry about one of those studios taking a big risk, flopping, and then possibly making the other ones have to be a part of a bankruptcy thing, which is very real at this moment for Daybreak Games.
Yeah, so this is where the breakdown is going to be. Dimensional Inc. Games will be in Austin, Texas, and they will be working on DC Universe Online and a new MMO project starting in 2020. Dark Paw Games will be working on EverQuest, and that will be in San Diego. And then Planet. So they essentially have 3 games. That's what it's looking like. They've got DC Universe, EverQuest, and PS2. That's pretty much it. And they all of them say, while also working on new properties, while also innovating the next thing in the franchise. So they essentially have 3 games left.
Yeah.
Or technically 4, but 2 EverQuests, a PlanetSide, and DC Universe Online. That's it. So the question now is, will one of these studios be able to go out of business? Like, I can't believe that Dimensional Inc. Games in Austin, Texas, working on DC Universe Online, has got a very fruitful future.
I mean, the thing is, there's not those kind of games, those kind of studios are going to be able to trickle in money, keep themselves afloat. But, they're not going to make a ton of money that's going to turn around and allow them to make a big, risky project, right? But I don't think they want to do that, right? With EverQuest, unless they turn around and say, we're going to finally make EverQuest 3, or we're going to, what they had promised before, unless they turn around and actually do that in a way that maybe will bring in money, those will continue to have probably 5 people who work there on EverQuest right now. I bet you you would think that there would be more, but there's probably something like 5 people.
No, there's got to be a couple more. You got a studio.
I mean, they may have, but the thing is, but I'm saying as far as like developers and artists, they probably have like 5 people, and then some supporting people, management, whatever else there. But I'm saying there's probably a core of 5 people that keep that game going and keep providing content and doing everything. Yeah. Well, the amount of money that they bring in supports whatever that staff is, the overall staff and their location. But they're not bringing enough in unless they got investors that said, hey, we're going to put money into, what is that now, Rogue Planet, I think?
Yeah.
Or is that Dark Paw? Dark Paw, probably Dark Paw for EverQuest.
Dark Paws for EverQuest, yeah.
So they're saying, all right, we're going to invest money into Dark Paw games to allow you to build EverQuest 3 or EverQuest Next or whatever it was you were supposedly going to build. Then they would be putting that risk on that. If that doesn't pay out, okay, then that is all 100% on that studio. And I think it's a much better way to go because you don't have the Daybreak Games bringing in money that then, maybe they'll decide to put to this project or this project. No, if you do something successfully with EverQuest, you'll have money. Or if you prove that you have something that could be successful, maybe you'll get money. But at their current rate, all of their things recently are really I can't imagine how they're having an easy time getting investors for any project because they've had so many failures in a row.
Yeah. Interesting to see that the breakup is happening. I personally don't think it's going to lend to anything, frankly.
Yeah.
I kind of think everything is pretty much set in stone where it's going to be. It may give the facade of things changing and maybe some more wind in the sail, but realistically, you're looking at 3 stagnant games. I mean, PlanetSide just had one of the most abysmal failures in video games, I would say, probably ever.
So, and this is one thing. I mean, here's a quote from their thing. The San Diego-based Dark Paw Games is going to focus on their flagship property, which is EverQuest. That studio is going to continue to support EverQuest games while developing the next innovation for the franchise. So
that doesn't say new game.
I mean, but who knows what that would even mean? I mean, every year they put out a new DLC. Nobody really knows, but they're putting out DLCs every year for that.
For sure.
So it's like they have, okay, we're going to release this many quests. So they have whatever supporting staff that is quest writers, all that stuff. They're just sitting there throughout the year and just very consistently working, putting out, and they must bring in enough people. There must be enough people playing it and buying those DLCs to justify that every year. But they've done it.
Yeah.
And it's still the crazy low graphics game that it's always been. But, if you're into that, the thing is, they've got them one of those niche products. There's however many people that are probably willing to pay 10 times what the product is worth to be able to have that DLC. Because you can't tell me that is a $60 DLC.
No, definitely.
But for them, because they're into that, they'll pay $60, no problem. So, whatever. I mean, that's the thing. Daybreak, we said this a long time ago. They've got all these niche products. They kind of take over the games that are dying. Like they pull them in and they keep them going, where most studios would have shut them down. Daybreak continues those things going. The DC Universe, EverQuest, any other studio would have said, all right, this isn't profitable enough. We're shutting it down. It's not worth our time. But I think this should be their new thing of is there a game that should keep going, that people want to, a group of people want to keep going? Have Daybreak take it over. Quit trying to make new games. They failed at making new games. They don't do it well anymore. Just absorb the ones that want to continue on.
Okay. Prediction.
Yes.
I want to hear from you. 5 years ago, Sony Online Entertainment was a thriving game developer. Will these 3 companies exist 5 years from now? Because my guess would be no. Maybe the EverQuest studio, but that
I think the EverQuest DC Universe. I mean, it's just old, and there's not really that much there.
Same thing with PS2. That game's been out already. The game's already old.
I think that I think they'll struggle to keep DC Universe going. PlanetSide 2, I think, will just, because PlanetSide 2 is not so much about relationships. I think what's really kept EverQuest going is the whole guild system, and kind of like us, where we have this community of people to play together that keeps people, even if there's not a single game that's holding us together, we still have a community, right? Mm-hmm. I think with EverQuest, you have a people that it's more about the community, less about the game. You don't have that with PlanetSide 2 generally. You may have a gaming guild or something that plays PlanetSide 2, but it's less about the community. I think there is probably some of those communities in DC. But I think EverQuest probably is the strongest of that, to where it'll have the most likely chance of keeping around in 5 years, just from those.
All right, there we go. Interesting prediction. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. What else we got?
All right. So let's. Well, first of all, were you there for Game of the Week?
I was. We had a fantastic
I had
time.
I had a work event, so I wasn't there.
Now, Brian, I met your roommate, who also happens to be your nephew.
Yes.
And let me tell you what, Brian.
Yeah.
Your nephew, I don't know. Yeah. Did you talk to him at all?
He told me he played.
Is that all he told you?
He said that he beat you guys a little bit.
He whooped our ass. This guy shows up and is like, "Oh, hey guys, it's Brian's nephew here. I'm gonna play some Rocket League." He's doing bicycle kicks. He's flying through the air. I'm like, this is bullshit. This guy just shows up. We're having our fun little time. He shows up and is just whooping us, whooping us. And I was like, this is retarded. I'm not playing this anymore. And so we played for a couple hours.
He did say you rage quit after a certain
No, I
point.
didn't rage quit. I went to bed. It was late. We played for, I'd say we played for a good maybe 2.5 hours. We played for a good amount of time. We started off doing some 3v publics, then we did some chaos, then we did some 3v3s, and then a 4v4, I think. And it was good. We had a great turnout.
Well, good.
So Rocket League was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's the problem is like when I try to play with him, then it puts me into the higher. It puts me in those higher ranks where it's just impossible. Like I can't play.
I didn't even play any public matches with him, but it was so like I was like, there's not even a point of trying to play the goal. Like it doesn't even matter. I can't stop the ball anyway. So we might as well just all play offense. And try
because he'll fly in the air and then he'll like tap it to where it then just goes in like the upper right of the net to where unless you're flying and somehow magically get up there, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So that was exactly what I wanted on my Friday night game night. So we had a good time with that. Are we doing a game of the week this week? I don't know if I'm going to be around.
Let's see. They're probably going to want to do something like Arc or something, and maybe we'll go and do the Ascension or something like that. We may do like a boss or something in Arc.
Show up Friday night. We'll be playing something.
Show up Friday night. Yeah, we'll play. If we're not doing Arc, then we'll play something else fun that everybody has.
I'll probably be playing some COD Friday night personally. I've been playing some COD recently, having a good time with that. So kind of a random game of the week. If you want to play something, show up. And hopefully there'll be a group of people there playing. Let's do you want to do a couple gaming things and then come back to some other stuff, or do you want to get all the
we can do some gaming things and then we'll come back to some of the more conversational.
So we've got another game, Brian, that has been delayed. This has been a very good news week. We went from the past 3 weeks have been impossible to come up with something to talk about to now another game delay. And this one is not a temporary delay. This is what they're saying is indefinitely. Dying Light 2, which is a survival game, a very much a survival game.
Zombie,
very much a zombie survival game. The Techland is the developer, and they announced Monday that the original scheduled release of spring. They said, this is the quote here: while we initially were aiming for spring 2020 release with Dying Light 2, we unfortunately need more development time to fulfill our visions. Our priority is to deliver an experience that lives up to our own high standards and expectations to our fans. But there is no new time frame for the launch, saying we'll have more details to share in the coming months on possible launch. So
possible launch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very different. Now, I want to bring you back to Dying Light. Remember that game that we played that they had released, the Dying Light kind of like BR?
Yeah, it was that kind of parkour kind of game. Yeah, it was actually good. It was actually fun.
But the thing is that was, if you remember how that went down, I was very surprised. That kind of made me wonder what was going on with the studio, because that didn't do very well at all. And the Dying Light franchise, I mean, the original Dying Light was a very well-made game. Yeah. I didn't think that they would put out something that seemed to have very little. I mean, they didn't push it at all. I mean, you remember that? Like, nothing happened with it. It was we played it at PAX, and then once they released, like nobody was playing it.
It came out 2 years ago.
Was it the 2 years that we've? Oh yeah, it was 2 years that we.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was our first year. And there's a video on our YouTube channel if you're interested. But the interesting thing to me is that they put that game out. It was like $30 or $40, and at that point we were in the sea of battle royale, and I don't necessarily think that they didn't do enough to push it. There wasn't a.
It was bad timing.
There's no player base. Who exists? But who is disenfranchised from the 9,000 other battle royale games that exist? And they're like, oh, you know what I'm going to play? I'm going to play Dying Light. Not a shot against Dying Light. Those group of people don't exist, and if they do exist, it's not a large enough number to build a whole community on.
Well, and I think part of the issue is when you're chasing, not gimmicks but fads.
Yeah, chasing the
whole BR. The whole BR thing is a fad. Like right now, people are playing BRs, and it's lasted a long time, but people are getting tired of the pure BR, like what we had
prior to BRs. Brian, It was the first-person shooter. There was 1,000 first-person shooters every year that were coming out. That market has dropped significantly. You've got Call of Duty and Battlefield. Not really any other contenders in that space anymore.
But the problem is when you turn around and you make a game, you see, oh, BR. Okay, our Dying Light was not a BR game. We have all these assets. We have all this code. Let's put this, Head Neophyte, we're saying BR, Battle Royale, not VR. Now, VR, I think, is a fad at the moment, but I think
VR is a fad at all.
But I think it has the possibility of actually growing to something if they can start releasing games that are full featured. The problem is right now it's acting like a fad because it doesn't have. They're all gimmicky games. I mean, there's just nothing with substance. And I think once you start releasing games with substance, then it'll take off. But with this VR, Beat Sabers. But I think what the problem is Dying Light said, we have these mechanics, we have all the weapons, we have all these things that are close to what we would need for BR. Let's just make this a BR, and they spent some development time doing that, right? I think that is the issue.
Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying is they put out something just to kind of see if it took off in the BR realm, but by the time they released it, the BR drop had already started. And so they're releasing a game when people are starting to drift away from BRs, all the sea of BRs that came out. And it was just bad timing. Now, that's the problem when you're chasing fads, is there's a good chance that you're going to, by the time your game is released, you're going to be behind the fad. You don't know that it's going to be going strong anymore. That's why I think being innovative and putting out something unique, you at least have a chance at, maybe this will take off and be its own thing going on. I think that's the problem, is when you release things that are on fads. Look at how many BRs that have failed. I mean, look at the Darwin Project. Really fun game, very well made, very unique, has different things, but you know what? At the core, it's a BR, and people don't want that. That Dying Light BR game, people had a lot of cool things about it. It was different. It had really cool parkour, but it was still a BR, and people just didn't want that.
The name of it was Dying Light Bad. Jesus Christ! The name of it was Bad Blood. This I get from playing with my pocket knife, or my knife during the show. Yeah. Dying Life. I've still got the drawstring bag. It's sitting right over here. I got all the cool stuff. I got like T-shirts and whatnot. And I think it was our friend Saul that coined the term BR burnout. And they fell into the height of that. But honestly, Brian, so Dying Light 2 is a very it's not really on rail. It's kind of on rails. It's like a half hybrid. It is
pretty much, yeah. You're playing through a story.
Yeah,
you can take multiple paths through the city, but you're going to end up at the same spot in the end.
Yeah. Those games seem to be more popular early generation of the current consoles, 2013, 2014, 2015. I'm not seeing so many of those games with success. So let's say this game does come out a year from now. Even so, you'll have obviously the hardcore Dying Light fans. Not that that's a crazy large group. But and also the other thing too to know, this may be the fact that they may be pausing development and waiting for the new consoles to come out.
And then push the generation a little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I wouldn't release a game, 2 months from now. We've got new consoles coming out in December.
Exactly. This is a bad time, because look at how many people, if you're releasing them for the old console, they're going to be like, well, I'm going to get into games that are made for the new one.
Yeah.
That have some advance, because like right now they've got games that are PS4 Pro, like for instance for the PlayStation, they have ones that are PS4 Pro enhanced. You know what? And all they're really doing is some of them limitations. They're making them less limited because that console's a little stronger. It's able to handle it.
Yeah.
Well, imagine how many things that they're limiting in all of these current games because they have to limit it to the PS4 hardware or the Xbox hardware.
Yeah.
They could make it to where the view distance and the rendering is better. They could do all kinds of things and have it be the same game.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this comes out on the next generation only, right? This doesn't need to be on the Xbox One and PS4. This can wait until Xbox, what the hell are they calling it? The One X or something? I don't even know. And then PS5.
Yeah. I think that we're going to start seeing, I think we're right now starting that weird transition time of the truly big studios starting to delay things because they know that the next generation of consoles are coming out, and their games are made well enough to where they actually maybe possibly are able to benefit from the new hardware, less limitations put on it. Something they can make it better and actually have a game that's worthy of it.
Cyberpunk's going to pull a GTA 5 if they hold to their release date, and I want to say that GTA 5 came out September of 2013. It would have been right before the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 launched. And in that case, they made copious amounts of money selling two copies of the game because people bought it to play for 3 months because it's like, oh, it just came out. And then you get your new Xbox or PlayStation. You're like, oh, I want to play. I want to continue to play. So you buy it again. That's a very smart move.
Do you think that they're going to have a Cyberpunk online of some sort?
I don't know. I haven't read if they have or haven't.
I haven't heard anything, but I'm saying that type of thing, similar to GTA, I think that because one thing that really drives the online currently, especially with PC, is the modding and the whole role-playing thing. I think the Cyberpunk world is built on role play. I mean, it's totally role play. That would be the perfect type of online to have people, pick up different jobs. Because remember when we played it, it was very much like you built a character and your character had a job. Like for me, I was the hacker, so my job was the computer things. Like you could totally have people role play in that world, and it could be really cool, if they expanded it to that. I just that would be the kind of game where, just like with GTA Online, you really could get an online community, I think, if in that huge world that they made. Pixelated saying, didn't they? I don't remember if it was actually confirmed though. I'll look it up really quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think an online mode would be cool. I don't think it's the end. I don't think the game sinks or swims based on an online mode, though. And I think
I think it could thrive. I think it could be something where that's where it would thrive after the initial release, because that's the problem with at GTA, look at Red Dead. Those games are good when you sit there and you play them through the first time through the single player, but GTA, people still play their online. Red Dead, people aren't playing their online.
I would make the argument.
It could have.
I would make the argument that there are more people playing GTA 5 right now than are probably playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, actively playing.
Yeah, for sure. And it comes down to that type of world that Red Dead was put on just doesn't play well the way that they did it in online. That's
Agreed.
it's not made. But you know what? Cyberpunk could. Cyberpunk, but just in a similar way that GTA and the whole city thing, and it really played well to making things that work well online. I think they could do the exact same thing with Cyberpunk. So they're saying that it eventually will have multiplayer, but it will. And what they said is it will only arrive once all the single player content is done. So that could be another thing where they could turn around and make a ton of extra sales because everybody's going to want to play it on the new hardware.
All the single player features should be done when the game comes out. I'm not liking that. I don't like that at all.
Well, that's what they're saying. Well, that's true. Yeah, they should have the game totally done. Now, one thing I was going to mention this, I didn't put it in the show notes, but for instance, they are adding some things to Red Dead single player.
Yeah,
they have recently. So this past week they just added it to PC and Xbox. Remember, PS4 has the early they get stuff earlier than other people for PlayStation. Well, but but there's some things that are only a month. But you mean for a year they get it?
Yeah, for a year they get everything early. Yeah.
Okay, so because there was like a month delay where PS4 had single player, like more missions and things like that, and they just got it, and it was back in December, I think, that they added it for the PS4, and then they just added it for the other consoles and the PC.
Makes sense.
So that would be interesting to see. I'd be interested in seeing Cyberpunk. If they really took multiplayer seriously and then really tailored to the whole role playing, because the Cyberpunk is based on role playing. I mean, it is role playing. They're taking a role playing game and making it a video game. So I think they could do some really cool things and start tailoring to that. Which, if you get enough big streamers really getting into that, dude, you'll have so many people playing your game. It's amazing
yeah.
how really big streamers push player counts. And we've seen that with, what is it, Tarkov last week. You get all these streamers doing it, the big streamers, and then everybody's playing the game. It happened with H1Z1 as well. All of a sudden people were streaming it, and then all of a sudden tons of people are playing it again. So I don't know. I think they could really do it.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a little bit of news about Dying Light and some throwbacks to Cyberpunk. Let's talk. You want to show a quick video? We've got a video here from Last Oasis, which is a game that has been delayed a couple of times and is another one of these games that we have seen very limited content. We've seen very stylized content, and it has me very nervous. Unfortunately, it's not as big of a game as Cyberpunk, but it's still something that's a little they've delayed it twice now. What we've got here is a video from a couple days ago. This is the Last Oasis devlog number 5, Staying Safe.
Hello and welcome to our 5th edition of our devlog. My name is Lucas, and today I'm going to talk about some dangers that a nomad can face in the world of Last Oasis, and how to safely travel with your possessions between the Oasis and the Wasteland. So in most titles, actually when you leave the game, your character is actually still facing dangers, because everything that you possess is permanently in that map, and people can raid you while you sleep or while you're just going to take a break. Here we try to actually address that and create like a safe environment where you can choose to actually risk it or actually to get it to safety. And here's how we do it. A nomad inside an oasis is always facing danger. You have a lot of nature, you have the Rupus, you have other players, and you also have the lack of water. So the wasteland itself is not a place where a nomad can live. It's virtually zero resources there. It's just a big wasteland of desert. And it's just used to actually safe log out and travel from one oasis to another. But for a nomad that actually scavenge a lot of resources inside an oasis, going through the wastelands with a lot of resources to another oasis is just not that feasible. So that's why they created the walkers, so they can actually store more stuff while they traverse the land in the sand. So when going from one oasis to another, you should have a walker packing all your stuff. If you want to actually stay in the oasis and try to secure your stuff, the best thing to do is building a base. A base can be built to actually secure all of your possessions, maybe even your walker, and also your characters if you want to log out in the same spot. But of course, these bases are risky because they can actually be raided by other players while they're still in the oasis. Bases can be built by a handful of different materials. You can build like a really lightweight and easy to carry base, or like a big fortress that's actually gonna take more punishment. It can actually take more damage and protect your stuff. With or without a base, you're always in danger inside an oasis. And a nomad can always decide if it's too much. If you think that this oasis is too much for you, there's too much risk, and you're not being able to actually progress, you can just choose to go to another oasis. You can go to the edge of the map and go to the world map and decide which oasis do you want to travel to. You can check some details on the oasis in the world map, which kind of resources they can grant you, and you can decide to travel there. Most of the oases that are really rich in resources are probably going to be claimed by a clan. So these clans can actually provide some safety for the players there. Whenever a clan claims an oasis, everything that happens inside of that affects them. So if there's a lot of people harvesting resources there, they're gonna get a quote of that harvest. But it's a win-win situation. Everyone gets a little bit. And that also happens for the trading station. If a clan get a claim on an oasis that have a trading station on it, the nomads will also pay a tax for actually trading in the trading station. So this clan is actually gonna get a little bit of the taxes on all of the transactions that goes on there. So probably clans are gonna try to make the Oasis safer, and they can do that by a lot of strategies. They can try to make like convoy for traders that want to go with rich resources to the trading station. They can put patrols out to actually check on the newbies that are playing there. But no matter how strong clans and nomads are, no one can escape the scorching sun. So when the time comes, bases are going to be dismantled, packed, and stored on the walkers to travel to another oasis. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching our devlog number 5. Wishlist us on Steam. Make sure to follow our social media channels for more updates, and see you next time.
All right, Brian. One of the more in-depth videos that we have seen from the folks over at Last Oasis. This game seems to be coming together in terms of mechanics. It's got a lot of really cool mechanics. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the mechanics, and you heard he say, well, I think we're thinking that the clans will try to make the server safer because they'll benefit. That always is a problem when you are trying to not anticipate, but when systems are kind of designed for the players to play a certain way. I think Atlas has struggled with this a lot.
It's definitely a risk.
Atlas, I think, was built for a certain play style, and they intended on people playing it a certain way, and when you didn't, the game was unplayable.
Some of the features that they have mentioned, those are in Atlas. So let's look at those really quick. First of all, having it so that when people come onto your claimed area and then harvest, you get a portion of that. That is a feature of Atlas. Having it to where you can build, something they've more recently done is allowing you to have a trader station, where you can go and buy goods and sell goods. A lot of those features, now Atlas did them too late, or Atlas did them in a way that was very broken. I think that the concept is good, as far as having a player built thing that kind of runs itself. The concept is good, but in a world that's constantly moving and changing like this one will be, it'll be interesting to see if people actually take advantage of all of that.
Jay Delory asks an interesting question. Why would clans settle for a portion of stuff when you can have all of it? I would think that's a pretty good rebuttal to this idea that clans are going to collect taxes of other groups instead of raiding them off the server.
Yeah.
Do you still have hope? Do you have high hope for a game like this?
I think the game will come out and be an interesting survival game. Whether or not it's going to live up to this kind of a crazy nomadic thing that they're trying to do, I'm not sure if that part is going to take off yet. I think that there's the mechanics to have kind of a cool Conan-ish game with a few extra features of more of a community, people working together type of features that are kind of cool. But I don't know. I think it's going to feel very much like Conan for a while.
Conan with vehicles.
Conan with vehicles. And if they can take that and kind of expand it, and then if people take advantage of the whole mechanic of setting up the bases and collecting taxes and doing all that, that'll be interesting. But I don't know if that'll take off. I think that's more of a risk. Put it out there, see if people do it. If they don't, then kind of retailer your game to have people do kind of like what Conan did. Conan was very good at listening and watching the community and seeing who was playing this game, what did they want, and now they offer only things that the player base want. All of those skins, and rather than forcing a PvP game down people's throat or a super like dungeon raiding system constantly, like that's not the whole point of the game. They kind of put the features out there, saw what people actually used, and they continued producing those things. And I think that this would be smart to do the same thing. Put them out there, kind of like what Rust does. Rust does the same thing. They put out the base game. You know what? Now they release things for the core, for what people are actually doing.
Agreed.
That would be the way to do it.
Agreed. So there you go. There's a quick update from our friends over at Last Oasis and what they are working on. All right. Let's see. We're about an hour into the show. Do we have a game to give away on our 50th year anniversary of the podcast?
Yeah, so go ahead and get it going. I'll post it here in a second if you want to either play something or
Okay, yeah. Let's
you have another article you want to do.
let's talk about this article. There's a quick article here from The Verge, and I think I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but the headline is Twitch viewership dropped after it lost Ninja Shroud and other top streamers, which, to a lot of people is a shock. But then you realize, well, you did take the two biggest streamers off the website. So,
yeah,
like Brian, you took two wheels off your car and your car drove a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happens when you take the two largest viewers. So there's not really an article. There's not really a whole hell of a lot to say here. They just, they in total hours watched in the whole year, it still increased 12%. They did have a drop towards the end of the year. But of course, I mean, you took away two of the big. I mean, Super Bowls with the Patriots have a whole lot more people watching than Super Bowls with the Bills.
Yeah,
it's just the way it works.
One thing I want to kind of point out is if you look at this, people have really given Epic a hard time. They've been given Mixer a hard time, saying, this whole bringing these big people to your platform is a bad thing. As far as getting the big names and forcing them to be on one platform. But obviously it's making a difference. If your goal is to take viewership away from your competitor and then over time increase your viewership, when you have these huge industry standards, I would say Twitch was an industry standard. Like that was the streaming platform for gaming. Yeah. Steam is the industry standard for purchasing games. The only way that you're going to change that industry standard to affect it is to turn around and slowly start pulling people away from it to where people don't consider it the standard anymore. That's what Epic is doing. That's what Mixer is doing. And it's making a difference. There are people that are realizing that the only place for watching people stream video games is not just Twitch now.
Yeah, and even if they're not real, and I don't think the takeaway of the article here is Mixer's killing Twitch. The article here is that Microsoft shelled out hundreds of millions of dollars to take over these people. So of course, Twitch's numbers dipped,
and it's affecting the platforms. So
because you're taking away
if they continue doing that, there's a possibility that it could start to shift.
Yeah. So.
Same thing with Steam. I think that is a possibility that Steam will not be the platform 5-10 years from now.
It's possible.
Not the only platform.
Yeah, it's got to start somewhere.
Yep.
So just keep your eye out for articles like this. It's kind of like saying water is wet. That's kind of what this article's headline could have been. It was, interesting article, but something that I don't remember where I saw it, but it caught my eye this week.
All right. So, I'm going to open / giveaway in chat. And I'm going to be giving away a copy of Chivalry Medieval Warfare.
Oh, great game.
Yeah, very, very fun game. So if you don't have a copy of this, go ahead and ! Giveaway in chat, and we will turn around and give this away before the end of the show here, probably about 40 something minutes.
Chivalry is a great game. Do you have Chivalry?
Yeah.
We need to play Chivalry sometime. Chivalry is freaking awesome. I've had that game I've had the game since the very, very early days of early access, like 2012.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And it's currently it's about $25 right now. So
that's crazy.
It's very positive ratings. So if you do not have this, because we'll probably do this as a game of the week sometime or something, make sure you enter into the giveaway.
Yes, sir. All right, we've got a couple things for one of the games that I previously played a lot and haven't so much recently, and that is Dead by Daylight. So we've got a couple things going on. We've got a new event. It's called the Scarlet Swarm event, and it's taking place in honor of the Lunar New Year, and it's taking place from January 21st, so today through February 4th. So the lobby's themed, the generators are themed, the hooks are themed. And the firecrackers are back as part of the thing. There are a couple of new outfits that you can get for different killers. And there's some different sales for things like that, and then a whole bunch of rewards for that. So check that out if you're interested. But I think the bigger news here, Brian, is an update that they did also today, the 3.5.0 mid-chapter update, which they only really do big updates. And unfortunately, there's a lot on here, so we're not going to go through all of it, but we'll go through some of it here. They added a couple of new features, one of them being a new rift and challenge for Tome 2 in the archives. They also added some cross-compatibility supports for parties lobbying and tallying chats between Windows Store users, so some beginnings of cross-platform play for those. They've updated the treatment theater map and some balancing things with that. They removed the Twitch chat challenge feature. They removed Dutch and Swedish language support. I don't know why you would remove language support.
Who knows?
And then they disabled the previous thematic lobby to put the new one in. Balance-wise, though, I would say the biggest thing here, and this is really only for people that are hardcore into the game, is they've changed how Ruin works. Ruin, R-U-I-N, is a perk. It's a totem that the killer runs, and it's a lit totem on the map, and it caused previously it would cause your skill check's based into two parts: a good, which is larger, pretty large, and then a great, which is a tiny little sliver, and it would get rid of the good. So you'd have to be very precise with your generator skill checks. Real pain in the ass. All of the killers ran it. They have changed how that's worked significantly. So instead of having a small area to hit your skill check on, the Ruin hex now, if a generator is not being worked on at all, so if nobody is working on a generator, it regresses at 100, 150, and 200% the normal regression rates. And the hex effect persists as long as the related hex totem is standing. So if you're not working on a generator, it will go down a lot quicker, which is good for the killer, but it's not going to be so stupidly OP, which it kind of was before. So that's pretty big.
Yeah, and one thing, so they've also released a new killer. I don't know if you want to play that video really quick. And I think it's a new map
update.
Yeah, the doctor. That's included in this patch.
Yep. So let's watch this video real quick. It's a promo for the doctor. So they've done some patches and some changes to the Doctor and his map, including adding some. They added new chase music for the Doctor. They added a new ability, which I think we saw, Static Blast. It looked like he kind of cupped the character's ears and some blast came out. They made a whole bunch of changes to the Doctor. And the Static Blast is the new mechanic in which the Doctor will always be able to hit with his primary weapon. And use shock therapy, which now has a 1.5 second cooldown, and you can still use static blast. It takes 2 seconds to activate. It has a 60-second cooldown. It causes all survivors within his terror radius to gain 50 madness points, which makes you go crazy. You eventually can't do skill checks or even you can't do anything because you go crazy. It affects any survivors. They will scream, which gives away your position. So they've made some changes to that. They've made some adjustments to the snap out of it, which is when you go crazy or asleep, you can snap out of being in those states. Missing a skill check will regress the progression bar by a fourth instead of all of the way, which was always an issue. You go all the way down. Skill checks will trigger at every quadrant of the progress bar, so you'll get 4 per skill per progress of getting through that. And then releasing the snap out of an action will keep the progress made instead of restarting, which is big. So if you accidentally take your hand off the mouse for a second, you'd lose all your progress. And then snapping out of it sends survivors to Madness level 1 instead of Madness level 2. So some changes to that, as well as changements to the treatment map, and then a whole bunch of bug fixes, UI improvements, and a whole bunch of other things.
So do you think it's smart here for them to kind of revisit each killer like this?
Yes.
Rather than having to go through and constantly putting out more and more and more killers, which makes it much more difficult to balance, right? To take these existing ones and just redo them and improve their look, their mechanics, their abilities, all of that, and make it to where they're the best. Because here they've taken this one and just really focused on it, and it's practically different. You know what I'm saying? It's a different, the way that it works, the way that it looks, everything's very different. I think that you could take the ones that are the less popular killers and just rework them, because they have all those stats. They know exactly which killers people aren't playing, and take those and see if they can make them something that people want to play again.
Yeah, that's one huge advantage of okay, I'm not going to call it advantage. That's one big thing to note with games like Dead by Daylight. They, from all I can gather, they collect a copious amount of user data and actually use it. Unlike a lot of other games, which just seem to collect it and don't do anything with it. So, yes, you figure out what perks are effective, which ones are not, and then retune them. I mean, this is QOL. This is quality of life. This is what it's about. This is what that last second polishing is that we talk about. So, I'm all in.
Yeah, and I think that this is pretty smart. They've got so many different killers. They've got a lot of content. I think they can just, if they can optimize that content, it'll go farther than them trying to constantly add stuff, because that just makes it harder and harder to balance and fix.
There was a period of time, I don't know how long it was. It was months where I was only playing Dead by Daylight, and I haven't played it at all recently. It's been a very long time since I've played it, actually. No particular reason, just kind of fell out of fun with it. I'm trying to see, when was the last time I played it? Last played December 1st, so I haven't played it in almost 2 months, which is for me a long time. So big update. They don't do these very often, so take advantage of them. There's some sales going on with the Lunar New Year event, which takes place now through February 4th. So make sure you check it out.
Very good. One thing there was kind of an article from TechSpot that I thought was a little bit interesting, but not for the politics side of it, but just more of, I think, people that don't play games, people that are out of the loop, I guess you could say, in their take of when they look at gamers and people that make games. So Joe Biden, he called game developers little creeps who make titles that teach you how to kill. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, whether or not, you can think about whatever you want about Joe Biden with this, but I promise you, he is not the only politician who has this mindset, because they're so out of touch with video games. They look at video games and they're like, well, why would you run around and shoot people? He comes from a generation prior to video games like this.
What I find so crazy about that, Brian, and obviously we don't do politics on this show, so we won't, even though I'd love to so much. We don't, because we understand what we're here for. We're not here to talk about our opinions. I do another show. You can tune in and hear that if you'd like. What I find, Brian, what I like to do when it comes to political things, Brian, is replace game developers with something else.
Yeah.
Joe Biden calls maybe a certain ethnic group little creeps who make things that teach you how to kill. And it's not even the comment as much as the broad brush painting that calling a whole. How many game developers are there in the world? I can't even. How many hundreds of is there 100,000? Is there more? Is there less? I don't even know. You're talking about a huge group of people, and to call them. And by the way, not every game that comes out is Call of Duty. The people that make what was that stupid game on the Xbox, Feather, where you were literally just a feather that would fly through the air
around.
Yeah, those people are little creeps, and they're making titles to teach you how to kill. Not every game's Call of Duty or Gears of War.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games. What's the cooking game? Overcooked.
Overcooked. Yeah.
That's another great example of a game. There's no killing mechanic in there. Those developers aren't doing anything like that. Not every game's an FPS. There's hundreds of. I'm playing the new Pokemon right now. Like, it doesn't teach you how to kill people. That's ridiculous.
My concern with this is more of them generalizing. This is a very common tactic when you're getting ready to attack an industry or attack a group of people. The thing that you do is you generalize them, and then you make people look at them in a different light. Because, I've talked about this. I think I've lightly touched on this with certain topics, and I've talked about it in our Discord before. But if you can get people to feel disassociated with a group, you will then be fine with people attacking that group and hurting them, right? And it happened in World War II. It's happened before. It's happening now. It happens now in politics. But I think that my concern is he is trying to have you view them as less, so that then when they go and start making laws that affect that industry, you don't view those people as people. You don't view them like you would where now they have a tough thing here, because look at what they're doing with the video game, and they're trying to demonize the industry and the companies. But then we saw earlier when we were talking about the making these developers work overtime is cruel. They're trying to personalize with them so they can push having unions. But then they turn around and say, but they're little creeps that try to teach you how to kill people. Well, are they good or are they bad? Like, they're kind of in a weird spot to where they have a very mixed message. He's saying that they're bad. Other places are saying that the developers are good. I think that they're going to start pushing control type of legislation, and this is the precursor to doing that. That's the only reason he actually has an opinion on it.
Yeah, and he was talking about a conversation he was having with some Silicon Valley developers when that came up. So what does that say about us, though? So if the developers are the ones that are buying this to teach you how to kill people, are we the consumers, we the video gamers, are we buying those to learn how to kill people? Well, I mean, so if you're going to say that about the people that make the product, what are you saying about the people that consume the product?
Yeah.
So that means
we've seen plenty of studies showing that is not the case. People that play violent video games do not have a higher percentage of harming someone. Yeah. There's studies that show that clearly.
So,
but that's
and I think not outside of what Joe Biden's comment was, I think this falls into the larger thing that we talk about in both gaming and technology, which is out of touch old people in politics that are trying to regulate loot boxes in video games, internet with net neutrality, and in this case, talking about how video game developers are creeps that make games teach you how to kill people.
But it's the same thing. At the bottom of the article, they kind of hint at, or actually not at the bottom, but a little bit farther down, they hint at some politicians are suggesting having extra taxes on titles with real life violent crime. So they do the same thing with liquor. They do the same thing with cigarettes. They do the same thing with now weed. That they have this sin tax to where now they'll be putting a tax on things that have, because that they're going to turn around and say, okay, we're going to put a tax to help people that are victims of violent crime on video games where they have violent crime. But the secret is, how often do those taxes actually go to the place that they're claiming they're going to go to? They're going to raise your taxes and then most likely never have anything actually go to that cause. They do this quite often. So I don't know. I don't know if it's as much of a tax thing versus a control thing, but I think it definitely comes down to a lot of it being a control thing. They want to be able to control these studios, and this is one way they can do it. So you're adding to crime, you're adding to all this, therefore you need to have a higher tax.
Unfortunate to hear somebody so prominent in politics make such a ridiculous blanket statement. But doesn't matter what side he's on. if Trump were to make that comment, I'd have the exact same claim. Because
but if your grandpa was to make a statement on video games, would it probably be about as out of touch on one side or the other?
Yeah,
this is what happens when grandpa, who is totally out of touch with that thing, makes a comment, and that's pretty much what the equivalent is here. He's somebody's grandpa.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here rubbing my leg here. So with that note, we can we'll go ahead and move on. What else we got on the gaming front, Brian?
All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit. Well, let's talk about Fortnite really quick. They put out.
Got to get our Epic money.
We got to get our Epic
tough
funds
this time
in
of
here.
year. Yeah.
Yep. So they put out their 11.4. This is mainly just an update where they added some features. So they re-added the heavy assault rifle. It's the side grading, right? Is that the name of the gun? It's the heavy assault rifle is returned.
Yeah.
In non-competitive playlists, you can now upgrade machines to side grade your assault rifle into a heavy assault rifle. So side grading is that they have an in-game upgrading mechanic for guns now.
Yeah.
So you can actually make your gun the heavy version. So now you can have a heavy assault rifle from the assault rifle. Also, they've reduced the material cost for upgrading weapons at those machines. They've added the new items to the battle labs: the flintlock pistol, the shockwave grenades, and the impulse grenades. And they've added for the iPad Pro 2018 release now supports 120 frames per second of this game.
Oh, thank God.
I just thought, but that's interesting though. I mean, they're getting this game optimized to the point to where on an iPad Pro it does 120 frames per second.
Have you seen what it looks like though on the iPad? It's not.
No, I haven't. Is it not?
Yeah, no, it's not. It looks like it. The game is already cartoony. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's not bad looking. If you were to look at it from 10 years ago, you'd be like, "Wow, this is incredible."
This is amazing.
But in comparison to everything else, it's kind of mushy and everything. It's 120 frames is great, but the game still doesn't look that great.
Yeah. Well, and also the thing that they fixed was the L3 and R3. So when you click the thumb stick buttons, you can now use those on the iOS controllers. So the controller to have with your iPad. Other than that, it was a bunch of bug fixes. So that is 11.4 of Fortnite.
All right. Cool stuff from them.
Arc had one update, and it's actually pretty small. They fixed an exploit with tech items, which allowed malicious players to output unintended damage. So it was a damage bug to where they could. And so this was a server side, which I probably should then update it on ours, make sure that's updated on ours. And that was released yesterday. So that was the only update this week.
If you're looking for something to exploit, the Infection Podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have up until the end of the show here.
might be a good opportunity to take advantage.
Now the problem is people are on our servers so much, it's difficult for me to find a time to update without kicking people off, which is a good problem to have.
Let me tell you, I work in IT, and whenever somebody says you can't do that, it's the middle of the day. Ask for forgiveness later. What's the worst thing that happens? You corrupt the database in the middle of the day?
Is that a challenge?
Nobody needs to log into the domain right now anyway. You can go ahead and reboot the only DC. It doesn't matter. If they'll get an error.
I should do it right now because they're supposed to be watching the show, not playing Arc.
Yeah.
So now would be the perfect. So I should
until it doesn't go well, and then you'll be preoccupied by trying to fix the Arc server during the program. I've tried that before. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Trying to multitask. I tried watching like a baseball game or something once. It was a terrible idea. It did not go well.
I think I remember that because it was bleeding over into my feed, my audio feed, that I could hear the game.
I have never, ever watched something on my main computer. I would never do that because now what may have actually happened is there may have been audio playing, but if the fader's down, it still could have fed back through.
Yeah, so I'm saying something. I remember once I could slightly hear whatever you were listening to in my ears.
But to be clear, that the feedback was because the cables were on the same sound card. So that your input and my output of the computer are on the same device. So even if if I had it turned down, I wasn't hearing it, you were. So no, I never.
Fine. It's been a while. It's fine.
It doesn't happen anymore because we're all virtual, baby. We're
That's right.
Cruising.
I'll never know.
DoItInIT.com. Great article.
So one thing I want to mention, Atlas, still no updates. It's been weeks. And I really wanted to play out. I wanted to get us in there and try it out because they've added all that new stuff, but they still haven't fixed the servers. So we'll see if Atlas ever makes it. But a game that people are playing that has boats and water.
Oh, crap. Sorry, that was the 1952 World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers. I got caught again.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
That's pretty much what I hear, but people don't hear it over there. So actually they have my video.
Did you really hear a lot of that stuff? Why didn't you ever tell me?
It was fun. It was really faint.
Yeah, because I always had that controller down, so I'd never hear any of that. Huh.
Yeah, so I could just slightly hear it in my ear. I was like, oh, whatever. At least I know what you're listening to.
Could have heard some interesting things.
There's a Sea of Thieves. Yes, it was usually sports and things, or a political like speech or something like that.
Oh.
So let's play the Sea of Thieves video because they have a content update, and then we can discuss it because this is a game that, I mean, people are still playing. It's not on Steam.
I've come very close to actually playing it. I have it. It's on Xbox Game Pass, but I've never played it. I've come very close to buying it.
I know. I'm right there with you. Like,
let's do it.
I really want to play it.
Blood Brothers. We'll buy it.
All right, we'll do some Sea of Thieving.
I'm not buying it. All right, here we go.
It's the beginning of a shiny new decade, and Sea of Thieves is back with its latest monthly update. There's the return of Duke and his gilded voyages, a new character to help you uncover the legendary stories of pirates past, and strange things are happening at the Reaper's hideout. So get ready to take to the waves for a voyage of discovery in Legends of the Sea. Stitcher Jim is nowhere to be found. However, Duke has returned to the taverns of the Sea of Thieves. And though he's looking a little worse for wear from his travels, he's brought back some valuable gilded voyages. You can only choose one gilded voyage from his selection. However, each voyage will net you a haul of loot so vast, it's enough to make even the gold hoarder's head turn. While you can take the rewards of gilded voyages back to the various trading companies you'll find on outposts, Duke is offering double the amount of gold on behalf of a wealthy investor if you ferry them to the excavation site found on the Reaper's hideout. There are also new types of Reaper's bounty chests appearing throughout the sea, which can be traded in for a gold reward. And Duke is insisting that you take these chests to the Reaper's hideout too. So if you're looking to fill your pockets till they're overflowing, simply offer up your goodies to the masked stranger and you'll receive twice the reward. What could possibly go wrong? And that's not all. There are now new tomes lying in wait inside Ashen chests. Get the jump on Ashen Guardians and Keymasters to claim each volume and unlock even more Ashen cosmetics. And with Duke back in charge, there's a fresh set of cosmetics to claim in the black market. From an all-new full ship set to proudly display as you set off for adventure. To new clothing options to show off your fondness for a particular feathered friend. Whatever you're in the market for, it's time to strike up the band and celebrate. And over in the Pirate Emporium, we're ringing in the new year with dazzling new lunar outfits for your pets. And lunar equipment to bring you good fortune on your new adventures. And if emotes are your thing, then we've got you covered. Whether you want to show off your latest party trick, strut your stuff in an effort to win hearts throughout the seas, or simply heed the call of the wild, there are emotes for everyone. And for those pirates looking to indulge in a little fantasy, then look no further than the new Cameo Premium Ship Livery. Harness the power of the elements as you dazzle other crews and strike fear into the hearts of even the most obnoxious giant trolls. And finally, Umbra, the heavily tattooed chronicler of legendary pirates, has made her way to the Sea of Thieves. She's heard rumours of the many grand quests that have taken place here and wants your help to document as many as possible. To unlock new tattoo sets, commendations and titles, you'll have to set off on the hunt for the various remnants of adventures past and celebrate the deeds of those who made their mark on the Sea of Thieves. So grab your gilded voyage and get ready to reap what you sow in the new monthly update, Legends of the Sea.
Thank you very much for
Ah,
watching.
Jesus.
Remember,
They
if you
always
liked what
do
you
this,
saw,
and I always
there's a
forget.
wealth of
You don't need
content
that.
already
Yeah.
on our channel.
Well,
So one
something
thing,
I
so
can't tell.
Barbie made a comment. So does anyone ever play this anymore? And here's from 13 days ago, an article saying Sea of Thieves is officially Microsoft's most successful new IP of the generation.
Wow. Well, okay. Great. Microsoft, I don't know how many new IPs Microsoft had this generation. They had a couple failures when the Xbox came out. So that, I mean, what does that mean? What does that equate to? I mean,
There's
it's like saying, what was the only Daybreak game that they released in the past year? That's like saying PlanetSide Arena was the best game Daybreak released in 2019. I think it was the only game they released.
Yeah, but they've put out. I mean, I think they put out some other ones since then.
Yeah, and it's their IPs. That's the key.
Mm-hmm. And so, the one thing is they had. Let's see, for PC, they had 283,000 active users on PC. Its launch month, so that when it launched, there was 283,000 PC players. Then they have 1.7 million on Xbox One. It hit 5 million players by July of 2018. And then as of last June, they had 8.4 million. And then now currently they have 10 million people playing it. So
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So
this is a
lot of
console
people playing
it. It's a console game. I've seen people.
And the thing is, because I don't have an Xbox, like I don't. Yeah.
But you could play it on the Windows Store. I mean, you can buy.
Yeah,
it on
I could
PC.
play it on my PC.
It just seems to lend itself more towards. It seems like it's built for a console, and it seems to lend itself much more towards that. I've seen a couple
But their
streamers.
numbers are much higher there.
I know Shroud has played it a lot in the past. I don't know if he still does. I know Summit, I think, played it for a little while.
Oh, he plays it still.
He still plays. Okay.
That's one of his more successful ones as far as people watching, because he goes through and he'll sneak onto people's boats, and like he'll fall asleep on their boat and then kind of taunt them, move stuff around, take stuff, change things, and then he'll like steal people's boats and kind of just troll people. And so he gets a lot of people watching him play Sea of Thieves.
And I would assume he's playing on PC.
Yeah, I think so.
So
now, so on this, I think that this is the type of game, though. It's more cartoony. It's simplified. Perfect for a console.
Hey, Gadlaw, thank you for the bits.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
100 bits.
I think because it was developed for a console, it makes more sense for it to be on a console. It seems like it was developed with the console player in mind.
Yeah.
Minecraft was the complete opposite, and it took them a lot of time, years, to make it the other way around. Yeah, it's tough, and it's pretty good now, but it's nothing like playing on a PC.
Yeah, but these major studios, I mean, you look at what Epic did with Fortnite, they definitely have console and controllers in mind, because I think they realize even on a PC, you're getting more and more people using a controller. And so if you have the ability to make it a controller-based game, because then you can put them on tablets, you can do all kinds of things, give people a little controller, and that's much better than a mouse and a keyboard.
I played the new Doom on Steam, or not the Doom from 2016. I played that on Steam with a controller.
Yeah,
I played Rocket League Friday night with a controller.
Yeah, and that's a game that works perfectly. And so if you can tailor the game to work, I think that in the long run, especially as we start to see, I mean, you saw that they on Fortnite, or what was the game they had said that we just talked about, that they released 120 frames per second?
That was Fortnite.
Fortnite. So you're getting games like that to where you can have a tablet, you can have some sort of a little controller, and you can play a game where you can't do that. You're not going to carry around a little keyboard and mouse with you to play a game on your tablet. It just doesn't work. And playing on the screen is just almost undoable.
Yeah, for a lot of games it is.
Yeah, and so I think that the future of mobile gaming is going to be having a little controller and then your tablet or phone is a screen.
Or your old phone is a controller.
Yeah, but still, those are just not responsive in the same way that knobs do. I think you'll start seeing people. I think you'll start seeing some really interesting controllers, mini controllers.
Yeah.
that work pretty well. And I think that that'll work. And even if they ever do eventually get to where you have some sort of an eye glasses that let you see a screen, it's going to be less about VR and more about just mobile gaming, to where you can put on the glasses and see a screen rather than carrying a tablet around.
Yeah. So cool update there from Sea of Thieves. It's I wish it was on Steam.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I would agree 100% that the whole notion of the Microsoft Game Store, even though I could literally play it for free, I just don't want to. I don't know why, but I'm not complaining about it. Notice the difference?
Just if you don't like it, just don't buy there.
I'm not playing it. So I mean, I've made my decision. I have it on Game Pass, the Xbox Game Pass. So
yep. So one of our favorite games, one of our pastimes of Infection Podcast, is Garrys Mod.
Yes,
and they put out a really big update, working around the whole Steam Workshop thing, and so I thought it was interesting. Of course, this is the same people that make Rust, and he did say they're kind of pulling in and starting to focus a little bit more. I think that Garrys Mod is their other successful IP that they have.
Okay. Look at this picture. This is an in-game menu for a video game in 2020.
Yes. Hey, and that's the upgraded one.
Brian, I'm not throwing shade at you.
That's the reworked UI.
I'm not throwing shade at you. Your topic timer that you threw together for me has got a better UI than this. And I'm not saying your topic. I'm just, you put very little. You put a decent amount of time in comparison.
Yeah. I'm not at the UI stage on my app. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to make it look pretty yet. This is their updated UI. This is the reworked UI that you can see here now.
The epitome of gray opaque boxes is Garrys Mod.
Yes.
Everywhere, all over the place.
So some of the things that they've redone with this system is now you can have add-ons which are up to 2 gigabytes in size.
Oh, that's fantastic. By the way, they downloaded like 56K off the servers, so just be aware.
So also, they newer updated add-ons on the Steam Workshop will display their real uncompressed size. Newer updated add-ons will take less space on your hard drive. There will be no negative impact on download and upload sizes, and players will be able to update their upload dupes, saves, and demos from in-game. So this is kind of their update for this. They've got some extra things they've kind of added for developers and server owners with working with the add-ons and things. But if you are a Garrys Mod person, you can now look forward to much bigger Garrys Mod mods.
Thank God.
Yeah, so you can
we do.
You can have a 2 gigabyte image of something if you really wanted to.
Of a hot dog. Yeah.
Yeah, a 2 gigabyte super high resolution spray like paint.
Yeah, that will download off of somebody's Bluehost web server where they're hosting their files at 128K. I mean, it'll be great. Everybody will win.
It'll take 5 hours to log into the server.
Yeah, it does now. It is unless a server's designed with fast DL with a decent host, it takes forever to join modded servers. It literally could take 25 or 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they
have
adjusted that a little
because that's just how it works. People use 00 web host for free to host their archive, their whole server file.
Well, we'll have to at some point do a Garrys Mod night again because we do have fun with that.
Yeah, you specifically. You were practically cyberbullying people during Garrys Mod. You were like a child. I've never seen you act like that before.
I enjoy Garrys Mod.
Yeah, because you act like a real jerk.
Yeah, it was fun. I figured that's part of the game.
You're making
or we could do some Garrys Mod role play.
Harry Potter role play.
Harry Potter role play. Yes, because that was a good time.
Or cowboy role play.
Hey, we could see if we can find a cowboy role play server.
I'm guaranteed it exists. What we can host?
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get all kinds of interesting people dropping in.
Oh yeah, big time. So there you go, Garrys Mod.
So that's Garrys Mod. Unturned, they put out an update this week, and so that's the 3.20.1.0. One thing they've reworked is the foliage system. So official maps using the newer foliage system have all been updated to the new improved file IO performance, so they load faster. It says before, each map had only separate files for an individual region. Afterwards, each map has only a single file combining all of them, and that really speeds up the validate game cache process when loading in. And then they had an only equipped filter for cosmetics and skins. Insane Skins received attachment skin by Debsky. Just a couple of things they've added, a lot of fixes, been adjusting some of the modding things as well on this. And I haven't heard anything for a while about Unturned 2. I know he's still working on it, but I haven't really heard too much about it.
That's supposed to be an Unreal, right?
Yes, that's going to be an Unreal Engine product.
He
does have a blog, and so I see things every once in a while on that, but nothing that he's officially kind of posted out there for the Unturned community. You have to go to his blog and see it.
Is that Nelson's full-time job?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Pixelated says he has access to Unturned 2 and says it is coming along.
Maybe we need to have Nelson back on the show. We can do that a lot easier now. I can actually have another guest at the same time and not kill myself.
Not be doing crazy things. Yeah.
Yeah. Very easy.
And that'd be an interesting thing is have him come on and talk about Unturned 2 and how is it developing it in Unreal? Is it better experience? We can talk to him all kinds of things about that.
How did we get?
I'd be down for that.
Time?
I don't remember. I don't remember how we. Yeah, we could say, hey, would you like to come out and give an update?
Pixelate, if you've got his contact info, if you would, I think we have it, but if you would pass it along, that'd be great. Appreciate it.
Just say we talked about possibly having him on the show again. Yeah. See if he's interested.
Kind of a big deal. Just saying. You throw it in there.
Yeah, you could say they're kind of a big deal. All right, so let's go through. We're getting close here to the end, but Survive the Nights, they had their 1.2 preview. There's some little videos. I don't know if you want to kind of play those in the background.
I will do that.
What
is Survive the Nights? We played this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so this is an open world survival game that's just recently really been kind of taking off with people. It's one that I remember a long time ago when they first announced. I played it, and it was just very rough. But they were constantly working on it. They had a list of features, and I said, hey, just come back to this later. Like at some point, once they have all these things implemented, this will be a cool game. And they're kind of to that point. They're getting to where they're in like alpha 1.1 now. This is the 1.2 preview. And people are starting to really enjoy the game, giving it better ratings on Steam and kind of bashing on it less. So this is the new lock mechanic, which I remember when we went in there, I think that the locks were really messed up and it didn't work.
They didn't work at all.
Or was that? Yeah. And so now you can go in there and they're actually implementing it into the game. So a system that makes much more sense, that tells you, it gives a feedback on it, makes it much easier to use. So that's going to be the new lock mechanic, to be able to get into things, to lock other things. And then also they have the compass system. So if you go into the world and you pick up a compass, they have different levels of compass. So this one is like you take a needle, you put it in a glass, and it's a natural compass. It gives you a very rough estimate of things. Then they have a actual manufactured compass.
Oh, that's cool.
That's much more accurate. And you can kind of see it when you're looking at the map. So just putting in some of those kind of cool features. I think they still have some performance things to continue to do, but they're starting to get, this has some very unique kind of cool mix of some other games that we've played, features that, I think will help some of the people that are into, because there's a certain niche audience that really likes this type of game. I think it's now getting to the point where it's playable to where they can start really getting serious with it.
I think if that game had a better guide, a better hook. It's got a lot of great features, but if they
eased you into it a little bit better.
I ran around for like 2 hours and I was like, okay, this is cool and all. I got like a gun or whatever, and I was like, okay,
I think an initial quest, like a quest that draws you along and like takes you across the map a little bit and kind of gets you to those first couple difficult steps that really hold your hand through that point. I think that's what people really want, to where then you're at the point where, okay, now I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. But you're past that whole, okay, well, what can I do with my inventory? How do I do this? I think that with games like this, it's sometimes a bad idea just to drop, especially when you got a lot of cool little features, just to drop somebody in the world and say, figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem to work so well anymore.
And obviously that stuff that's QoL stuff. That's stuff that takes away from fixing bugs or issues, but it's important. When after 2 hours, I'm done playing a game because I don't feel like there's really anything to do.
What I'd really like to see is for them to go and do a huge UI rework at the very end of it. Once they're close to release, do a UI polish, because their UI, I mean, it's getting better slowly, but I think they could really use just a solid polish at the end. It's difficult to do a polished UI through the process of developing because you're wanting to add a feature. You don't want to have to sit there and wait forever for your artist to turn around and have something ready for you. It's fine putting out quick things during the process of development, but I really hope they go through and do a solid polish before they actually consider it released.
Likewise, yeah. They're going to need it. They're going to need it for sure.
So that's Survive the Nights 1.2 preview. So you should be seeing that pretty soon, coming to live. PUBG, they are doing a test for their 6.1. So if you go to their test servers, they have their 6.1 on there. There's a video for that as well, which is actually talking. So
English?
And it's not in English.
Glad I didn't play it.
So yeah. So if you want to go there and read the subtitles.
Jeez, bro. You almost just led me down a path of failure.
But I told you
5 years of being together, and you almost just let your best man sink. You almost just let me drown.
That would have been hilarious. So,
건물 내에서는 외부 시야를 확보할 창구를 트고 외부에서는
there's not even subtitles on the video.
No, you had to click them in YouTube.
Well, there's no way to click them when I download the MP4.
I know. So, anyways, that's what I was going to say.
폭탄을 적극 이용해
go check out the video.
수도 있고 카라킨에 숨겨진 지하 터널을 통해서 위험 구역을 탈출할
This is what
수도
Brian's
있어서
contribution to
다양한
the show
전투와
is.
서바이벌 요소를 직관적으로 느끼실 수 있습니다.
But yeah, so that's the executive producer of PUBG Corporation, T.S. Jang. But yeah, so he
developers.
He is the executive producer.
Oh, I guess I didn't know. Oh yeah, what's his name's not doing that anymore. Brandon's gone, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not really he's not even linked with the company, I think, anymore.
That sucks.
Yeah,
I like him. He's a nice guy.
So what he's saying, if you were to read this in English, is that their season 6, they're adding, first of all, that new map that we talked about a little bit. So if you want to go check out that new map, you can load the preview version and you can go and test that out. It's a small island off the coast of North Africa. It's called Kraken. I should try to hear it. I wonder how he says it in Korean or whatever.
I don't know. I'm not.
Kraken. He says Kraken. So, but he's saying it in Korean, so who knows? But it's a dynamic 2x2 map, so it's small. It says it's a harsh environment, but they have new features that they're putting in there. It's supposed to be fast paced. It has what they call a black zone in there that can destroy entire buildings at random.
Wow.
So, and that's something that's not like scripted. It can be it's random to where you can have buildings and everything, so that your games are actually different between each game. One thing you'll find differently is that the bullets can now penetrate some of the walls in here, so you could shoot through some walls on this map. Another thing that they're adding are sticky bombs, so you can allow campers, you can create to where you can put a sticky bomb in the building and then blow it up, when people walk by, weird little things like that. Or you can try to capture a building by blowing a brick wall down and then entering the building through a different way than a door or window, which is kind of unique. Haven't really done that. Or if you need to escape a room and you're kind of tied up in a room, you can blow yourself out of there. So yeah, their season 6 is coming. They're having a new survivor pass called Shakedown. They're going to be adding some new features to their lab. You know how they do that lab where they kind of test things. They're going to be adding a couple new features to that. So it should be interesting. You know, they've been doing a lot of things. They have that. They're adding that motor glider in that they did the lab for. I think that's about it. So, I mean, there's a lot of changes they're doing here. I'm not going through each one, but there's pages. We'll have a link to the patch notes for this. But they're making a lot of changes in season 6.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Elite Dangerous. I don't know if you want to talk about that. Awesome game. They have their patch 2, so it's mainly just some fixes because they did their bigger update. I don't remember what they called it, but their initial update, they had patch 1 last week, and then this is patch 2, mainly fixing issues with Thargoids and exploration because they made some changes to both of those things. And then it's a stability fix and some other little fixes. So this is not no real content in this, but just fixing some of because they did do a big content update at the beginning of this year.
Pixelated says that he's been getting back into that game recently. Boy, that's like a lifestyle change. Well,
yeah.
You work from home today. You know, work from home.
Yeah, but I actually had to work.
Play Elite Dangerous. You know what you need to do?
I need to
get
program a console in Elite Dangerous to my console that I've programming code.
This is what I would recommend you do. You download one of those screen twitcher programs that you put on your work computer that will move your mouse pad or move your trackpad. You constantly fidget your cursor so you're always active. And then run one of those like fake websites, put it F11 where it's just like you opening and closing Excel documents. That's the way to go.
I'll be like, man, you haven't done a Git submission here for days. What's going on? Oh yeah, I'm just working a lot of code locally. I got to test it. You know, make sure
I'm balls deep in Excel spreadsheets right now. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. So, so ROE they
and then you could complain about it when you get fired. That this is so unfair.
Yeah, I need a union. So ROE, they put out some new updates here. They've changed one thing. I'm just going to complain about their new versioning system. So because they made a stupid choice early on, and their versioning system was by the month, the day, or the month, the day, and the year. So they did for December, it would be 12. December 16th of 2019 would be 12.16.2019. Does not work well for version numbers because now when they turn around and they had now a new January, rather than doing 1/16/2020, they have to do Jan.16/2020 because because they did them backwards. Europeans, well, you just put the year in the beginning, the month for the second, and the day, and then you can put whatever's you want for multiple submissions in one day. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life, making the month the first part, the day the second part, and the year the last part. The year, the part that doesn't change as your whatevers. Stupidest idea. Now they have to put the words in here to make it so that you don't have conflicts.
Now, when you say conflicts, where would the conflict be?
Well, when it's a version number, if they happen to put like 1/16/20, you know, if they did multiple variations, they should have done .001. It creates weird thing. It's just a weird. The version numbers, usually the variations are at the end of a long string of version numbers.
Yeah. In this case, they're not ever.
There's not. It's in the middle. The only variation you have for a whole month's in the very middle of it. It's just the weirdest versions I've ever seen, and they've been doing this. Now it's changed. Now it's Jan. Now it's words. Which
now they're putting words.
What are they going to do next year? What are they going to do next year when they want to have variations more? Are they going to spell out the whole word next year? January 16th of 2021. It's just weird.
You need to quit your job and go work for ROE.
And to be like, guys, first thing we're doing is fixing our versionings because they're not the only ones who do this.
No, they're not.
Because Conan does this exact same thing. Stupidest.
Conan doesn't release as many patches.
I know, but still, don't just because in Europe you have things in a different order doesn't mean you have to make that the versions.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. This is America. If you're gonna release your game in America, version like an American. We don't need any of this foreign versioning crap. Would you agree?
Well,
would you sign a petition? Change.org petition.
but doing the year as the first thing, there's no reason not to do that, because that can be your main version number in 2020 dot, and then next year it's like going up a version.
Yeah, 2021. What if you want to go up a version in the middle of the year?
You don't need to. You could put them all at the end. No, I'm saying, but you can have 2020.16.
How about you don't use the date at all? The date doesn't mean anything to me.
But the thing is they're wanting it to where it automatically increments, right? So for doing versioning of submission of patches, right?
Yeah.
So if you have it as the year, that's like your main version number. Every year you go up from version 1 to version 2, 2020 to 2021. Then you have your month, which will increment 12 of them through the year. And then you have your day. And then you have, if you're doing multiple submissions per day, you have another increment, point, whatever.
I much prefer how a lot of other games do it, where it's just it's like normally 3 octets. So 1.1.1 or 3.1.5. That just seems to make a whole hell of a lot more sense than this bullshit with the name and the date and the year and your mother's maiden name.
It's only these like for here, they're over in Japan or whatever, and then we see over in Europe them doing it as well. It's just certain companies do it this way, and it doesn't help me. So frustrating.
When I look at Dead by Daylight 3.5.0, I have an idea of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the third major version of the game. When I look at in Conan or any other game, a date string, what is that relative to? If the game just came out, I mean, the relativity is a lot harder.
Head Neophyte, he says, you can tell what revision it is by the number of Y's in January. So, but like, okay, so January Y is like version 4.0 or maybe 5.0, because they had the number and then now Jan.
We should start a consulting firm. Brian and Nick, video game consultants.
Yeah, we'll help you with your versioning. First step, versioning.
No, everything. We can help with everything. We're consultants. We'll charge high rates to do very meaningless tasks. That's what pretty much almost all consultants do.
They're like, we're struggling with this little thing of how to. Oh, okay, $10,000. I'll show you how to fix your version.
$150 minimum.
$150,000.
Yeah,
yes.
$10,000. We might talk to you.
The year, the first octet. We got this. 10,000 more, and I'll tell you the next. I'll tell you the next thing.
Write this down. Write this down.
Yeah, anyways, the stupidest thing is reading these versions. And because I typed them in the show notes, I'm just like Jan.16. Stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. All right. Anyway, so they put in some new weapon skins. And not only for one they're showing is what was it? I don't even know what this is. It's like a vector is what it looks like. I think they have the Graza and the vector that they did the skin on. They have some for like the MK12. Just a bunch of skins for this. Also added some additional styles to a new character or one of their existing characters. They have it to where you can buy vehicle appearances in their store for E-points. They've done some things to kind of optimize the helicopter, the frames when you're under the helicopter. And then they also put out Jan.21.2020. And this was mostly just fixes. So, for instance, and an adjustment, their P90 can now appear in high tier loot areas. They've done some changes to some of the characters with styles and then tweak some settings. So that is ROE.
Write that down, write that down!
Hopefully the next version they fix their versioning system.
Write that down, Brian.
The Long Dark, who does a very nice versioning system, 1.71.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's not enough variation. If I was
okay, but look after that. If you look at the thing, hotfix version 1.71, and then they put their actual like patch number, internal patch number, which is 58341.
That's good. That's what
so that's the secret is here's your public one.
Renaming the episodes of the podcast.
I know we need to have it to it's like okay, so what's security now where he's running out of
God.
So he put 3 digits, was it 3 digits on,
Something like
for his episodes. And so he's approaching episode 999. And so he's trying to figure out like what he's supposed to do when he gets to episode 1000, because then it's like starting out over again and like put that at the
it'll index it as number 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it indexes it incorrectly at that point because he now has a funny 1. So
yeah. Couldn't happen to a better person.
I know. I'm sure he'll come up with an over-engineered version of fixing
some DOS program that can fix it. We're gonna reinvent indexing from the ground up.
Yeah, he loves to write it in machine code.
Yeah.
So yeah, he'll switch to Roman numerals for his new versioning system.
Jesus Christ.
So now we have on here, they did some art fixes, some UI fixes, adjustments to Wintermute, and then a bunch of gameplay tweaks. So this is because I think they did a content update last month or over Christmas or something. And so this is a hot fix for that. So mainly just fixes to get it stable. And then SCUM, which we talked about, and our lovely experience with SCUM a couple weeks ago for Nick.
Yeah, great.
They're 0. Now this is a versioning system, 0.3.68.20018. That one thing they've been really working on are what they call puppets, which are the zombies. So they have military and police puppets. So you'll be able to find them in the world. Like for instance, around the police station, the military zones, you'll see military puppets. And then they reworked how these spawn. So in multiplayer and single player, the spawn times are different, but in single player, it says wild 5 minutes, exterior 18 seconds, interior 30 seconds. These are the puppet spawning times. And then multiplayer, wild 10 minutes, exterior 30 seconds, interior 5 minutes. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know what that means. I would assume they would spawn based on population, but that's not how they do it. Then they did a lot of quality of life adjustments, but as we saw, did they do a connection? I don't see anything about fixing connections in here.
No, it was never an issue. I was the only user.
So hopefully they fixed that as well.
I hope they did.
That may have been like a server side thing that they fixed.
I hope they didn't
bother
fix
putting it here.
No, of course not. Yeah, why would we put something as major as cannot connect to a server and have to use a VPN to connect? God forbid. Why would we include that in our patch notes?
Yeah, because I look through and I see client and server optimizations. Maybe that was.
Oh yeah, like every good game developer. Oh, we fixed worked on anti-cheat.
Yeah,
Right.
improved anti-cheat. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much SCUM. Did we miss anything? I think we got it all.
We did it. I'm surprised. There's a lot of news in there.
Yeah.
On our 50th year anniversary.
Yeah, so Head Neophyte says, for those listening, Nick's eyes rolled out of his head at the mention of SCUM.
It's just frustrating, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to go on a tangent because I'm not. It's just frustrating when you genuinely want to try something. Like when you genuinely want to be able to be like, oh wow, this is something really okay. I'm hoping that when I play a game, I can have an opinion in which I can come back to this show that we do every week and tell people, hey, I had a great experience at a game that you all may have not played. You should try it out because it's fun and I enjoyed it. That's what I hope happens when we try a game. Yeah. And when I have such a disappointing thing, it bums me out because I have to come back to the show and bitch and complain about it. But that was my experience. I would love to come back to it. It was fantastic. Everybody should play it. I did that with Doom last week, and I got a great recommendation from a listener of the show on a couple of other games I should check out. That's what I hope that we can do with stuff. Instead, I have to come back and say, couldn't connect to a server. Reddit's solution was use a VPN.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. So.
Well, maybe next time.
No, there's not going to be a next time, Brian.
Judd says that next year,
2021,
they'll fix the connection issues in 2021.
Yeah, lots of things we fixed that year. All right, we did it. So On that note, I want to I can do current players now with
your music
try
correctly.
this. Okay, here we go. And it's time for hold on, that's the outro. It's time for current players. All right, here we go. Let's start it off with actually Brian, H1Z1. Currently playing.
Yes.
These numbers are huge. 3,165. The 24 peak, 9,006. The 70 peak, 9,562. Very, very high numbers from H1Z1 as of late. Currently playing Ark Survival Evolved, 33,951. The 24-hour peak, 53,205. The 7-day peak, 69,211. Let's move on over to Rust. Slaying at the top of the castle here. Currently, 40,407. The 24-hour peak, 56,877. With a 7-day peak rather of 82,246. And finally, let's wrap it up here with PUBG. Steam said there was currently 3,000 people playing the game. That doesn't sound very accurate, so I left that off.
But they did just release an update within the last hour.
Why.
That's an 8 gigabyte update. So it's like a map update. So that's probably what people are doing at this moment.
That would make sense. So the 24-hour peak is almost 500,000, 475,652, with a 7-day peak of 542,679. And Brian, that's no joke with H1Z1. I mean, they've got they're picking up a serious player base.
Yeah, and the thing is the game is not horrible. I think some of the things that happened with it, as far as the battle royale, the other one doesn't exist anymore. But the game's not horrible. But I think kind of what it became, just the masses of Asian players that brought in a ton of cheating that we weren't supposed to talk about. All of these things just made the game unplayable. And you know what? If the cheating and all that stuff isn't crazy like it was there, it'd probably be kind of fun to play. Until they realize, oh, everybody's playing it again. Now we're going to bring in all the cheats and the hacks and we're going to do all this stuff again. And it's going to be the cycle all over again.
Yeah, now that's something that is something that's not been seen yet because it's so new.
Recent.
Yeah,
all these cheat people now have to kind of recreate the cheats for this again and start distributing them, and it's a process. Like it kind of builds up, and then I'm sure here in a week you'll have all the cheats ramped up and ready to go, and it'll just destroy the player base again.
I mean, if we look at the past month, this really started about 10 days ago when there was 1,000 people playing. That was the peak it hit. It's been 500 every other day, and since then it has gradually gone up. Somebody streamed it this week with 52,000 people. And then the next day streamed it with another 52,000 people. So somebody big. And then later on in the week, 31,000. So the correlation is absolutely there. I don't know who was streaming it. I haven't paid attention. Because I really
there's still a lot of those big streamers are playing Tarkov right now.
Dude, I'm intrigued by Tarkov. I won't play it because I'll get my feelings hurt.
I look at the inventory system. I was near my nephews and they were watching some streamers playing it. It was actually Dr. Disrespect. And I just looked at him messing with the inventory system and having boxes or bags and bags and bags where he's just moving stuff. He's just sitting there. He's not doing anything. He's not talking. He's just moving things around between a bunch of bags. I was like, this just looks like the stupidest thing I could possibly be doing. It's because he wasn't actually playing. He wasn't doing anything. He was just moving stuff around in inventories. It's like, this is just weird. It was the most convoluted inventory system I've ever seen in my life.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I mean, have you seen it?
Yeah. I have seen it.
It is the craziest inventory system.
It is. And it's because there's a global inventory that's the economy in that game is very rich. And it's like being worth tens of millions of dollars in the game it means a lot. We won't get into it tonight. We're running long, but Tarkov's interesting.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, it's kind of one of those where you kind of get into mini games. I don't know how it's not one you would think would be good for streaming because who wants to sit there and watch someone rifle through? Yeah. But for the casuals though, they're going to look at that and be like, well, he's just messing around with his inventory.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's very much an Ark or an Elite Dangerous where you really or a Rust where you really have to invest.
You have to put the time in.
Yeah, you're either playing Tarkov or you're not. You're not just casually playing Tarkov because you're going to get your ass kicked, like in Rust.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready to move on to tip of the week?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, this is where I go through and give a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. And since Nick needs a little help with this game, I figured I'd do it on SCUM. So this is tip of the week.
Real funny, bro.
All right. So one of the cool features, SCUM is interesting because it has some unique features that you don't really see in a lot of these other similar games. We talked about.
Can I talk about one of the unique features?
Sure.
Being unable to connect to the server is super unique.
I know most online games allow you to at least connect to the server. They have a very unique feature which doesn't allow you to connect to a server. One of a kind. But on here, one thing that they've implemented is having, when you right click and zoom, you right click usually and it kind of zooms in the screen a little bit. It does that for visuals, but this also will do it for audio. So if you right click, it'll zoom in the screen a little bit, but it will also focus the hearing of the player as well. So perhaps you're hearing initially a lot of ambient sounds, birds and rustling leaves and things like that. You can right click and zoom in and it will help you focus in on footsteps and things that you may be trying to hear, because in here there could be other players that you're hearing footsteps of, or those mechs, which are quite dangerous. Maybe you think you kind of hear one in the distance. If you right click, zoom in, and then it will focus to where you're more likely to hear that sound. You also might want to turn up your audio in game when you're doing that, if you have a way to do that to make sure you can hear it. But that is, I think I figured that'd be something interesting I've not seen in other games, but that is tip of the week.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that. Do we have a winner chicken dinner?
Yes. So let's go ahead and close this and draw. And congratulations, Pixelated.
Heyo.
You have won, and I will send you a key here for Chivalry, Medieval Warfare. Great game. And maybe you can participate with us when we do it for Game of the Week or something.
Older game. Don't know if I'd necessarily pay $25 for it. It's a little, if it's the game itself is kind of buggy. That's just part of the charm of it. But if you're looking for it, a game to buy on sale, it's one that is frequently on sale.
Bingo, boom, shakalaka.
I would highly recommend that.
Very good.
Brock Vaughn hitting us up with the resub for 18 months, saying congrats, 5 years. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And everybody else that has been subscribed to this program. Not quite for 5 years because we haven't been doing that this long, but been doing it for over 2 years now. So very cool. Thank you, Brock Vaughn. We appreciate that very much. Game of the week, we're just going to be kind of nothing planned. Just
we'll show up and have a good time.
I'm probably going to be playing some COD. So if you're interested in that, great. If you're not, hopefully we can.
I would encourage people, if you're interested in playing some ARC, we still have a pretty strong ARC presence going on.
Oh yeah.
We have 6 servers up. So if you want to play on any of the different maps, they're all connected, so you can transport between them. And it is accelerated harvesting and things like that, so you can get in there and actually make some pretty big buildings, tame some dinosaurs at accelerated rate. Just have fun. So, check it out.
Brian, thank you for everything over the past 5 years. We've been through a lot, different games, different platforms, evolving the podcast, different software, whole bunch of stuff. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if people want to find you on the internet, where can they go ahead and do that?
Well, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can go at Boise Computer. If you want to go to my blog, it's biteoftech.com. And on there's a lot of different ways to contact me if you need to contact me for any reason. Of course, you could go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. And if you look on the right-hand side there, you could join our Discord server. On there, you can message us. You could submit news to the news channel. You can also go on there and participate in the game of the weeks and different things that we're doing throughout the week. If you want to get a notification before the live show starts, make sure you join our Steam group, and that happens just a couple of minutes before we go live. If you want to watch us live, you can catch us on Twitch, YouTube, or Mixer. After the fact, maybe you're driving to work or you're supposed to be working, you can listen to us on whatever podcasting platform you'd like at the lower right. Now we'll have 262 episodes, so you can check out show notes for every single one of those. And any of the, maybe a video that we played that you, for instance, the one that was in Korean, if you want to watch that and actually read the subtitles and see what they're saying, you can do that on the link in our show notes. If you want to support us through purchases on Amazon, you go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com. If you want to make a Humble Bundle purchase, go to humble.infectionpodcast.com. And of course, if you want to do what you've seen and heard people doing throughout the show, if you give us your Twitch Prime subscriptions, those do add up. You know, we've had some people that are doing years now worth of subs for us, and we really appreciate that. That does make a big difference in the end. So thank you.
Yes, helps a lot, especially as we are planning our 2020 events that we're looking at going to towards the later half of the year. There's obviously a lot in there. E3 is an idea. PAX, of course, is an idea, and there's a couple of out-of-country events that we're looking at as well. So as we're planning to do all that, the Twitch Prime and just the regular Twitch monthly subscriptions really do help us try to mitigate some of those costs. So thank you. Thanks, everybody, for that. Brian, can't thank you enough, my man. Love you.
Yeah,
appreciate everything over the past
past
5 years, and I'm going to say I'll run up into 5 more years. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying, you know, I didn't think 5 years would happen the first time, so what would stop it from being technically possible the second time? Unless somebody like DMCA takes us down completely, or we get deplatformed.
You never know. It could always happen.
It could absolutely happen. So thanks again, Brian, and we will see you Friday night for something we'll be playing, and then next Tuesday for another episode of Infection. Alrighty, folks. That is going to do it. My name is Nick Craig. Oh, I gotta get this. Oh. Hey, look at that. Look at that. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Check out my blog. It's dudeinit.com. Of course, you can visit our website if you missed any portion of the show. It's infectionpodcast.com. Show notes, links, images, everything else is there. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for our 5-year anniversary show. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.